quick question for me, Lawrence.
Yeah.
How many clicks does it take you to get on Instagram Live?
4 minimum. 4 minimum, because first you got free hands.
Right.
Then you got to pick up your phone.
Yeah.
Then you got to hit the Instagram app.
Uh-huh.
Then you got to hit the little thing for your stories.
Yeah.
Then you got to hit live.
So there's a lot of moves.
Like you
Before you get on Instagram Live, it takes some steps.
You know
it's
how
hard to do accidentally.
Like we could butt dial somebody.
Yeah.
You ain't butt dialing Instagram Live. Like that's just not gonna happen. So whatever you doing, you know, and it end up on Instagram Live, it was not done by a mistake. Know that.
Yeah. I like the hashtag respect.
Respect though.
Fantasy Football Pregame with Matthew Berry, served by Applebee's.
How good was that a week ago? Professor Jackson with his master class on the do's and don'ts of social media. Welcome into week 3 of Fantasy Football Pregame. Here with you for the next couple hours. Lawrence Jackson, Jake Croucher, George Savaricas. Pleased to be sitting alongside Matthew Berry. The shirts and the fits, Lawrence, through 2 weeks have been on fire so far, my man.
We trying to do a little something. You know, things keep going on in the world, and you know, if it's a little bit sports related, Shannon Sharp's situation was a little bit sports related.
Sure. It involves somebody who used to play sports.
Yeah.
Yes, and that's about it.
Yeah.
But you know,
Doing another physical activity.
this week, you know, big talk around
Involved
the
in the
football.
first sport ever, honestly, when you think about it.
Yes.
Big talk in the football world about 2 high safeties, you know, because apparently that just became a thing. Like this season, they just started playing 2 high safeties in the NFL this year. So, you know, I'm here to
Just
say.
got noticed.
Yeah, I like
Just
2
got
high
noticed.
safeties. Like back in my day, I played a little cornerback, and as a
did.
corner, we like 2 high safeties, especially in cover 2. It's like, watch your man chill out in the flat. You know, we got the 2 high safeties up there. Man coverage, we can be aggressive. 2 high safeties, you get burnt. 2 high, so I love 2 high safeties, man.
Yeah. Lawrence is also, he's captured this little inefficiency in the market by having a significant other who can turn around t-shirt production in rapid record times. It's very good.
That's
Something
how we
people
do.
should consider going forward.
Yes.
Well, Kuiper Jr. on notice here. FF Pregame. A lot of headlines to get to week number 3. Matthew, you want to kick us off here? What's top of mind for you?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think the biggest storyline in fantasy is what's going to happen in the Chiefs' backfield, but we're going to dive into that in more depth in just a little bit. So for me, my storyline that I sort of want to just watch today is like, what do the Panthers' offense look like under Andy Dalton, professional quarterback, veteran Andy Dalton? Can we get some fantasy value out of Deontay Johnson, out of Adam Thielen, out of Chuba Hubbard? Is this a good offense when Jonathan Brooks comes back? I actually think it is, and I think Andy Dalton's going to be 2 quarterback league viable. But that's, to me, the storyline is, what do the Panthers look like with a professional veteran quarterback under center?
AKA Andy Dalton will find a happy home in the League of Assholes.
There you go. He's already been rostered. The Red Rifle was quickly.
I mean, Easton Stick is rostered in
Yeah.
this league, so that's
Yeah,
how
it's a
deep-
league of assholes.
That
for a
just
reason.
seemed like a cry
For
for
2
help.
years in a row now, Easton Stick has been
He
rostered.
started for me in the playoffs. I lost. I lost the matchup.
The
to
Stickman
Matthew.
fought valiantly
he
against
did.
Matthew Berry in the playoffs. Jay, what's your storyline?
My storyline is the New Orleans Saints. This has been, I think, the biggest story in football so far. The fact that the Saints, who everyone was expecting to be the most nondescript team in the league, all of a sudden, very descript. They blow out the Cowboys in Dallas. The look-ahead line preseason on Saints-Eagles was Saints plus 3.5. Now they're 2.5-point favorites, so it's flipped 6 points. If they win this game, and if they cover against the Eagles, they should be the second favorite to win the NFC after the Niners. That's how quickly it's turned for the Saints, and I'm a believer. I think this team is for real.
And we want you to send questions throughout the show, hashtag FFPregame. Let's get right to it. Half-point PPR, start 2, sit 2, Connor Pollard, Brian Robinson, Rashid Shaheed, who's been off to a fast start for the Saints through 2 weeks.
I got to tell you, Jason, I think these are 4 great options. I actually don't think you can screw it up. Having said that, I think Connor and Pollard, to me, I'm nervous about on Washington just getting boat raced by Cincinnati, and so it's a big Eckler game. I do think the Eagles will make a point of trying to take away Shaheed. Connor's just getting such massive volume, and Tennessee is a home favorite. Give me a lot of Tony Pollard. He's become the guy in Tennessee.
Yeah,
That would be
I'm
my
with you
argument.
on
That would be my.
No, I have no further comment from me, Matthew. You nailed it.
100% on board. Tajay Spears banged up, so you'd think, if anything, Pollard's usage, which has
sure.
been impressive through 2 weeks, could be even more so for week number 3.
For sure.
Let's spin it over to Lawrence. What do you got?
I mean, look, Mark Andrews, tight end 14. Laporta, tight end 16. Kelsey, tight end 28. So my storyline is, can these elite tight ends finally show up and be consistent down the line from a fantasy perspective? The tight end position is all over the place right now, but we drafted some of these guys in the first 5 rounds of our fantasy draft. So my storyline will be basically, can these guys get back on track?
Yeah, what the heck has happened to
It's grim. It's grim out there.
all these top
Brock
end
Bowers and pray for rain. There's nothing.
He's our only hope at this
If
point.
you're not
He's
Brock
still on.
Bowers, you better be scoring a touchdown, because that's the only way you're getting fantasy points out of tight end right now.
Been brutal. I think it turns around today. I think it turns around.
Well, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I mean, at least
Very
3
bad.
out of the 5.
Yeah,
gonna
nowhere
get
to go
something
but up.
going. Yeah.
I've got and the guys who waited late to either draft a quarterback or figured, hey, maybe you can pick one up week number 1. You've been able to feast off the waivers. We've got 4 guys who are currently top 10. Baker Mayfield, Derek Carr, Sam Darnold, Geno Smith. At times throughout all their careers, they've been retreads. They're all having a resurgence so far this season. That's through 2 weeks. So can they keep it going? This is kind of a prove-it week for week number 3. Is this just a hot start, or is this going to be a trend throughout the regular season? So I think the proof will really be with what we see from these guys in week number 3, something to watch for. I know they've been very popular pickups, especially after week number 2.
Especially in the League of Assholes. Yeah.
Yeah.
1,000%.
So let's get now to our burning questions.
Okay.
For
Oh, love the
week
animation
number
here.
3. I guess with my 0-2 start in the League of Assholes, that's why I'm getting raked over the coals there.
But you're very
One of the only
smiling.
winless teams.
Oh,
I really
again.
enjoyed it, though.
You're super smiley versus, again, Lawrence just so angry. I don't know why you're so angry,
I'm
Lawrence.
just smiling to hide
It's
the
my
tears.
game face right there.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
So what we have on Sunday Night Football, Chiefs -3, over under 46.5. They go on the road at the Falcons. Can we trust anyone, Matthew, to play off your headline at the top of the show in this Chiefs backfield for this week at the Falcons?
Trust is a strong word. And I don't know that we can trust anyone. I mean, look, you saw it there on the screen. Like, if I'm starting one of these guys, I have P. Ryan at 30, I have Steele at 31. So I'm sort of like fence-sitting there a little bit because I think we just don't know. And I would argue that I don't think Andy Reid and his coaching staff know. I think they want to see sort of what happens here. Like, the pro-Carson Steele argument is that he's probably more likely to get a touchdown of the 2 running backs, and that he actually was getting some work as a runner prior to Isaiah Pacheco's injury last week, right? So that's the negative Carson Steele is that this is an undrafted rookie free agent who had a bad fumble last week, and oh, by the way, isn't particularly versatile. I don't think we're going to see a lot of him in the passing game. This is going to be a pass-first offense that is probably going to increase that, obviously, with the injury to Pacheco. Like, Andy Reid has always wanted to be pass-first. It's just Pacheco was so good that they just, they were able to be more balanced. But the emergence of Xavier Worthy, the continued dominance of Rashee Rice, I know they got to get Travis Kelce going tonight as well. So I think because P. Ryan's the better pass catcher and the better pass blocker, like, I think he's better in pass pro. My expectation is that P. Ryan will be out there on more snaps. He has a higher floor because he's going to be involved in the passing game. With Steele, I really feel like it's touchdown or bust for Carson Steele. It's worth noting the Falcons give up 3.8 yards per carry to running backs this season. They're pretty good against the run. And P. Ryan, in the last 2 years when he's gotten double-digit touches, he's averaging 18.1 fantasy points per game. Now, some of that's skewed by the Cincinnati games where he was just like getting all the work.
Yep.
He's not going to get all the work tonight, but I don't know. That's sort of how I break down the Chiefs backfield. I don't know if any of you guys.
Let's get to the question, and then
Okay.
we'll finish
All right.
the thoughts here. I don't want to keep Cesar Martinez waiting for too long
No.
because we got P. Ryan in the mix here. So who are you going to take for your RB2? Him,
Yeah.
Zach Moss, or Brian Robinson?
I mean, I think it's Zach Moss. Again,
Zach
I've been
Moss,
sort of
yeah.
clear on here that my Commanders are going to get boat raced on Monday night. It's going to be embarrassing. And honestly, look, again, Bengals are a touchdown, over a touchdown favorite at home on Monday night. So Zach Moss, I think, has got the best chance of getting a touchdown. P. Ryan, we just talked about. Who knows what's going to happen with Kansas City? And as much as I like Brian Robinson and they do use him somewhat in the passing game, I feel like it's going to be more of an Eckler game as they chase the points on the road at Cincinnati.
To expand on your thought, my concern with Carson Steele, I mean, even with the limited action he had last week, he had 7 carries for 24 yards. So it's not like he looked explosive when he came in relief of Pacheco. So you would think that it's going to slant Perine getting the majority of touches in totality out of the backfield.
Yeah, I would say if you don't have to start either one of you, it's cool if you roster one of them. If you don't have to start them, don't do it. But if you have to, I would probably go with Perine because of what Matthew just brought up about just being more experienced. You want a running back who's in the game in passing situations, because if you're in there to pass block, that means you're available to catch the ball too, and we've seen Perine doing that. So if you had to, I would go with him. I would not love having to do that, but you're probably in a situation with injuries if you're starting either one of these guys right now.
Yep. I think the thing is that the most likely outcome here is that there was one of the early Mahomes years. Like I remember it was 2019, 2020, where the leading Chiefs rusher for the season had 498 rushing yards. This was back in like the Damian Williams, Jacandrick West, LaShawn McCoy was on that team.
Days.
Yeah. And so I think that we've seen how this show can go in the past, and I think that that is the most likely outcome, that there has to be a lot of discussion about it because it's the lead running back on a team with Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid, but the most likely outcome is that all of these guys are going to be frustrating.
Yeah.
100% makes sense.
What was the name of that running back you just mentioned?
Shakandrick West.
Shakandrick West?
Sharkandrick West. There's an R in there.
Sharkandrick West.
Yeah.
We dropped the R in Australia.
Well, what did he say?
Yeah.
Shakandrick West.
He said Chikandrick.
Chikandrick.
Yeah. We're
It's like,
different in Australia. That's the main differentiation
Renaissance,
between me and you.
similar to your Renaissance.
The Renaissance.
The Renaissance of Chikandrick
I'm actually
West.
right on both of these things. You're right. Charkandrick West. That's not how I talk.
Is that your American accent right there trying to come out?
Yeah, exactly. Very good. 5 out of 10.
Now that that's settled, let's go to the Pacific Northwest. We got the Dolphins making the longest road trip you can take in the NFL, going from Miami all the way up to Seattle. That line it has been oscillating between 4.5. Seahawks favored, the over/under at 42. We got Skylar Thompson now starting under center with Tua.
What could go wrong?
Going to IR. Realistic expectations for this Dolphins offense with Thompson getting the start, Jay?
Fairly low, I think. And the problem for me with Skylar Thompson, one, we do have a reasonable sample of him playing and without Tua in this offense, and it hasn't been great, the early returns. And the biggest thing with Skylar Thompson, he takes a lot longer to get the ball out than Tua. And Tua, he gets criticized a lot, but Tua is a very good NFL quarterback, and the best thing about him is that he makes quick decisions and he gets the ball out, which I think in this offense, in McDaniel's scheme, is crucial, particularly because this offensive line isn't very good.
Right.
And now I think it's a concern against the Seattle team that has been great at getting pressure. Mike McDonald's scheme in Baltimore last year led the league in generating pressures despite not having a Myles Garrett or a TJ Watt on that defensive line. So I'm worried that that is just going to break everything. That if Skylar Thompson takes too long behind a suspect offensive line with the Seahawks generating pressure, it's going to be very difficult for the Dolphins passing game to get really activated.
Yeah, the thing about Skylar Thompson that's on the plus side is he's a little more mobile than Tua, but then again, we want to know how this affects the other guys on the offense. So Skylar Thompson running everywhere is not going to affect Tyreek Hill, who had 7 catches for 69 yards. The last, when Skylar Thompson started that playoff game, Waddle had 3 for 44. So I just feel like those are the kind of numbers you should expect. Like, just simply you start the two guys and temper the expectations.
I will say this, that if he, instead of going by Skylar Thompson, he was Sky Thompson, like you just called him, I feel better about him. It's kind of cool.
What? If he
Thompson.
If he play good today, we call him Sky Thompson.
I'm just saying, like Sky Thompson.
You know what? Maybe
Skylar Thompson, I have no confidence in, but Sky Thompson's going to kick some ass.
He has some cachet to it.
Maybe just subconsciously I called him Sky because I didn't want to bring up Skylar White from Breaking Bad.
I was just about to
so
say,
I just called him Sky.
you know the most Skylar White, the most hateable character in TV history that wasn't intended to be hated.
Right.
You know what I mean? There's a lot of characters that you're supposed to hate, right?
No.
You know, like
I feel like if Breaking Bad didn't exist, that Skylar Thompson's passing prop would be like 15 yards higher.
Probably.
Yeah.
On the point about Waddle, I think you nailed it with that stat line that you called out for him. Like Jalen Waddle is really, really good.
Really good.
He is set at 43.5 receiving yards
that's right
and
on the number.
3.5 receptions. 3.5 receptions for Jalen Waddle. That is how low the expectations are for this offense.
Right. The other problem is, by the way, they're on the road to Seattle, one of the toughest places to play. And to your point, again, it's 2 weeks, it's small sample size, but so far, there's only one team in the NFL that's given up less passing yards per game than the Seattle Seahawks. They're tied for second in pass defense through 2 weeks. Again, small sample size schedule has a lot to do with that. Right? They played some teams, but still, like, Mike McDonald's a very good coach. This is a tough spot here. All right. All right.
We got a question here. You want to take it? Swervin says, pick 2 of the 3, Waddle, Akers, or Juwan Jennings. Hashtag FF pregame. This for the flex spot.
Akers is, to me, the definite here. Yeah. You're definitely starting Akers. He's going to get all the work on the road at Minnesota, and I get it. Like, he's Cam Akers, but we're not Mixon or Pierce here, and I just think volume gets you there on an offense that's going to score. Like, so Akers has got a good shot at a touchdown here. I'm going – the fact that it's a question tells you everything you need to know.
Yeah.
I mean, in what world would you ever think Jalen Waddle versus Juwan Jennings is a question? And yet today it is. Yeah. Today it's a legit question, but I can't. I get the question, but I'm still going to go Waddle here.
Here's the thing.
Just the talent of Jalen Waddle, the fact that, listen, I think Juwan Jennings is talented, and I think he's going to get a decent target share with Deebo Samuel out, and no George Kittle either, but I think it's a heavy run game there. I don't know.
I tell you what.
It just feels dumb wrenching Jalen Waddle for Juwan Jennings. And Juwan Jennings is like a nicer player, but I don't know.
I agree. It feels dumb. I would start Juwan Jennings because, one, his yardage prop is actually higher than Jalen Waddle. And this is a crazy thing to say. I think he has more upside than Jalen Waddle because of how bad the Rams secondary has been. They just gave up a perfect passer rating to Kyler Murray. They fixed Marvin Harrison Jr. in 1 week. They turned Marvin Harrison Jr.
1 quarter.
He went from the worst receiver in the league to the best because of the Rams defense effectively. I don't think you can make a wrong decision. It feels very dirty to bench Jalen Waddle for Juwan Jennings, but I think it's defensible in this
scenario. Why I probably couldn't do it. A situation I'm actually in is where, because I have Jalen Waddle in damn near every league. Some I'm starting him, some I'm not. One of the leagues I'm not starting him in is because I have Rashid Shaheed because I got him later in the draft. So a guy like that who's been balling the first 2 weeks, I could do it for that. It would be a little tougher for me to do it with Jennings.
Yeah, everything you said makes complete sense. Right. And I got if you came to me and said, you know what, I listened to Jay and I decided to start Jalen Waddle, I got no issue with that. I just think sometimes we get too. And everything you guys have said about this, and I'm nervous about Sky Thompson as well. I'm just
ST.
Big Sky.
Anyway, I'm just going to tell you that he's Waddle. All he needs is one play, and I don't know. I can't go. Here's what I will tell you. Here's what I will say, and then we'll move on. If you bench Jalen Waddle, he's going off.
That's how it always goes.
But if you start Waddle, Jennings is going to have 2 touchdowns. So it's really, just so you know, it's really up to you. Just let us know what you decide so the rest of us can figure it out, because that's absolutely what's happening.
Listen, no pedigree, but the guy would have won Super Bowl MVP. So let's put some respect on Juwan Jennings' name.
I like Juwan Jennings. I think he's a nice player. I agree with you, by the way. He should have, had the Niners won, they still would have given it to Purdy, but Jennings had a great Super Bowl.
Yep. Game changer.
But I don't know. I feel like the big playability that sometimes we just get too cute with the quarterback, the quarterback issues and everything like that. Like, he's still Jalen Waddle. We haven't seen it with Juwan Jennings. We just don't know what a full-time role looks like in this game, and they may not need to throw. And I think it's a big it's a big Ayuk game, and blah blah blah. Anyway.
Let's keep in the afternoon window, because that's part of the 4 o'clock Eastern plus kickoffs with Miami at Seattle. And the next matchup, we've been touching on the 49ers at the Rams. San Francisco comes in as 6.5-point favorites, the over-under at 44.5. That after the Rams just got completely blown out at Arizona last week. So we got no Kupp, no Puka Nacua for the Rams, no Deebo or Kittle. Who's going to step up for these offenses, Lawrence? We've been teasing it a little with Juwan Jennings. So
yeah, well, at least on the Rams side, it's gonna have to be Demarcus Robinson, right? You're missing your 2 top receivers. 49ers are missing one of their top receivers. Rams is missing their 2 top receivers in Kupp and Nacua. Demarcus Robinson's played at least 92% of the snaps in both of the games this season. Is way ahead of Tyler Johnson and Jordan Whittington, who's played 73% and 21% respectively. Tutu Atwell will get in there a little bit, but because of what Demarcus Robinson has done even this season and then the end of last season, you got to figure that it's got to be him who has to step up in that passing game, maybe a little Kobe Parkinson as well.
Yeah, it's not great. I think, look, if you're looking to take flyers on guys, like the Rams is the place to look.
Yeah, of
like
course.
if you have Jordan Whittington available, if you Tyler Johnson, if you really want to take a flyer, we'll get later in the show and talk about our really deep cut flyers. But on the 49ers side, we talked about Juwan Jennings. I'm fine with Purdy. I think, and you've got him as a top 10 quarterback. I think just in a dome against this defense, against this secondary that's really struggled, you can start Brock Purdy with confidence.
Yeah.
Need upside here from Mike Russo, YouTube comment. Sorry, Matthew, to cut you off.
go ahead.
There. Severe underdog with no cup. So in his flex, Deontay Johnson, Demarcus Robinson, or Rico Dowdle. Who has the most upside of the three?
The most upside is Deontay Johnson, right? I mean, should be negative game script. He's getting monster target share.
Over Demarcus Robinson, who could be the Rams' number one?
Yeah, against San Francisco. I mean, he's asking for upside, right? He's asking for upside. I mean, for whatever it's worth, I have Deontay Johnson at 25. I have Demarcus Robinson at 33. Dowdle splitting time with Ezekiel Elliott in, in theory, a tough matchup against the Ravens, although the Ravens haven't played good run defense in a while now. Yep. But again, like it easily could be Zeke falling into the end zone twice. So the answer is most upside. The most upside is Deontay Johnson. He's got a 100-yard, 2-touchdown game in him. It's just whether Andy Dalton can unlock that. I don't know. But most upside, I think, is Deontay Johnson to me. Either you guys
I agree with that. I don't think it's
I'm with that.
Wouldn't be far-fetched at all if Deontay Johnson goes like 8 for 80. Like that seems very much within the range of outcomes.
Yeah, I can buy that. It's a new look Panthers offense with the red rifle. So we'll see what shakes out for week number 3. I thought it was odd that they bench Bryce Young and then say, well, he's in timeout. So we may
That's
start
what
him
they did.
child.
Like, why say anything? Just say, hey, we're making a change, and we'll see how things progress this
Timeout
season.
is such
For
a
timeout is such a
and
poor
apparently
choice
there were
of
reports
words.
that came out just basically saying like, hey, a lot of teams have acquired about trading for him, and they're like, we're not trading him. I mean, we hate him, but we're not we're not trading him. What are you doing?
Well, it's like now that people want something, then you're like, whoa, damn, they want him now. So let's no, we don't want to give it up now because now people, that's
right. It's like. You and your girlfriend break up, and then all these guys come out of the woodwork.
A lot of
like,
inbounds.
Whoa, and you're like, baby, I'm so sorry. Baby, let's get back together. Baby, I'll change.
I didn't know you was this hot
I didn't understand. Good God. Like, I'll answer your DM. Just, it's all right. Come on, baby. Let me buy you flowers.
Terrifying accent. Talking about my American accent. I don't know what that is. From Matthew Berry.
Come on, baby.
That's begging dude accent as well. Back to this game here very quickly. We talked about Juwan Jennings. Even though I talked up Waddle, I have Waddle at 31. I have Jennings at 34. So I have them right there. But just to give you some positives here on Juwan Jennings, he's had 5 career games with 6 or more targets. 15.3 fantasy points per game is what he's averaging. And 69% of his targets over the past 2 years have come from the slot as well. So I do think that he's somewhat of a natural fit for at least some of the Debo role. He's not going to get the rushing. Obviously, he's a different kind of player here. But Debo had a 29% target share. So there's a lot of work to go around with both him and Kittle out of this game. I do think, Jennings has some upside there. I have Ayuk at 7 at wide receiver. Just, I think, monster game for Ayuk. We like Mason as well. Just to your point about Jordan Whittington, and then we can move on here. But in the second half last week, he played 100% of the snaps. 70% of his routes came from the slot. And so, San Francisco banged up in the secondary as well. Negative game script. You expect Stafford to have to throw quite a bit in this one. I think Whittington's a very interesting sleeper. I took him in my DraftKings lineup as well. For DFS, he's dirt cheap. I picked him up wherever I could, not in the League of Assholes. I forget who it was, but somebody bid way too much money for him in our league.
Sounds about
I
right.
also, candidly, I don't need him. You know what I mean? Like when your team is so good, you're like, that's
You're
fine.
1-1.
You guys go ahead and
500 record.
use all your money on Jordan Whittington. But yeah.
You have one more win than my New York Giants.
Whatever. That you just bet a lot of money on to win the NFC East
That's right.
at
80-1, baby.
80-1.
The long journey starts.
Shocking
today.
world.
just did it after the 0-2.
Anyway,
Yeah,
whatever.
80-1.
I'm going back to back in League of Assholes. I'm calling my shot. That's fine. I'm 1-1 now, but it's fine.
Yeah.
I got to just get healthy. I'll
Yeah.
get healthy.
You got a 1 in 14 chance, or how many picks in this league.
1-12.
Yeah,
So who's counting?
Yeah.
Look, I got a 2-12 chance. Lawrence is in the league. Come on, stop it.
You know, I'm sitting up. I'm not dead last like that last year. Not my guys ain't hurt no more. But I got the big show this week, so we gonna see how that shake out.
Juggernaut.
I got the
Big
toilet
shows.
bowl this week. Wise and I are each 0-2, so
Somebody will be 1-2,
someone.
and someone will be 0-3.
You would hope. A tie would be.
I'm not sure who I'm rooting for in that one, to be perfectly honest with you.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's funnier if you're 0-3.
Oh, it's way better content.
I mean, so maybe that's what I'm rooting for.
George, don't
Yeah.
go 0-3 in this league, man. I'm just telling you.
You
Don't
speak
do
from
that.
experience?
Yeah, I was like 1-4. It was the same thing. So yeah, don't do
It's
that
tough.
here.
Well, in our last matchup, both teams undefeated right now. We got Houston at Minnesota. One team we expected to be there in the Texans based off their playoff appearance last year. The other team with a backup quarterback starting for the season in Sam Darnold. The plucky Vikings at 2-0 right now. Houston favored at Minnesota minus 1.5, over under 46.5.
Yeah, Jay, are you surprised that the Texans are getting are giving points
A little
on
bit.
the road?
I thought this should have been pick. Just total coin flip. I think that what this is saying is there is still a little bit of skepticism in the market, which I would echo a little bit, just about Sam Darnold and how real it is. He was awesome in week 1, but it was against my beloved New York Giants, so not much there. And then in week 2, he has the amazing. He gets all the credit in the world for the 97-yard touchdown pass to Justin Jefferson. Outside of that, he was basically negative efficiency. He had some very shaky plays. Now, he led them down the field at the end. He has the pass to Naylor to win it. He was fine. But still, it's 2 games of Sam Darnold. We have a lot of history on Sam Darnold. So I think that would be the concern going up against D'Amico Ryans.
Right, but counterpoint to that is I mean, they still beat San Francisco. You know what I mean? Like, they still beat San Francisco, and now Houston didn't look great beating the Bears. Like, they did, but
Texans haven't been great. Like,
they didn't look
snuck
great.
out the win
and-
against the Colts.
Exactly, and the Colts. We don't think the Colts are any good at this point. Like, they barely beat the Colts. They kind of eked out a win. They're walking in, without Joe Mixon. Like,
Well, that's the big thing. I don't
I
think
was surprised. I know. I'm just, I like the Texans too, but like, wow, the game. If the game were in Houston, I'd see 1.5. Like, with the game being in.
I think this is the type of thing, though, where that all makes sense, and then you start watching the game, and it's like Sam Darnold's dropping back and C.J. Stroud's dropping back, and it's like, I wish I was on C.J. Stroud minus 1.5 against Sam Darnold.
Fair enough. Yeah, which I totally get.
But Matthew, to your point, I don't think the market has priced the fact that Joe Mixon's sitting this week. Texans offense, second half of last game when Mixon had that high ankle sprain.
A lot worse.
Didn't look great for the final 25 minutes against the Bears. So how would you play this Houston backfield this week?
So, and what do you know? We have a question from YouTube.
Let's get to the question first, and then we'll. So rolling with Singletary and Jalen Warren this week. Akers picked up already in my league. Is it worth picking up someone else like Justice Hill, or should I roll with the 2 RBs? This is a YouTube question.
I'd roll with the 2 RBs.
Yeah.
I mean, Justice Hill again. It's like it's him and it's him and Derrick Henry. Like, I think you feel pretty good about Singletary's workload, and Jalen Warren is starting to pick up. That is going to be such an ugly game. That Steelers Chargers game. I prefer Jalen Warren, so I'd stick with Singletary and Warren. I get the question here, but
It's
yeah,
a random thing, but if you're in like a really deep league and you need multiple flex spots and these guys are available, I would try and get like Rico Dowdle and Justice Hill, because I feel like that's correlated, right? Because Rico Dowdle, him performing well means that the Cowboys are running the ball more, and if they're running the ball more, they're probably up. Justice Hill only plays really when the Ravens are in passing script. So I mean, that's a pretty unique scenario, but I would try and get both of those guys if that is possible.
Yeah, I think, well, Dowdle's out there in some leagues.
Yep.
Yeah, it depends. It depends on what you need. Do you need upside? Do you need variance here? But I feel better about Singletary and Warren's role than I do about Justice Hill, because they could. Because, by the way, the Cowboys been bad against the run. Like, it could just be a Derrick Henry game. Like, screw it, we're riding King
Ravens
Henry.
are favored.
They're 0. Talk about, they're like the George Savaricas of the NFL. Like, they are desperate. The Ravens are desperate for a win. You know what I mean? Like, they don't want to go to 0-3.
They're starving for a win.
They're starving for a win again.
There's a stat the last 5 years, NFL teams that have started 0-2 only make the playoffs 5% of the time.
Yep.
And it gets even worse if you're 0-3. So this, you hate saying week 3 must win for George the Greek and the Ravens, but it is.
It's crazy we saying it's about the Ravens, but it is a must win.
Yeah, I like the Ravens to win that game because I just think they'll be more desperate.
Yeah.
They have to be.
I'm not going to acknowledge George just self-titling himself George the Greek. It's unbelievable. George the Greek thinks he's coming off an AFC title game last year as well.
Yeah.
Like the Ravens. Very good. Very good.
I wasn't going to touch it because I don't think you're allowed to nickname yourself. The only one that I've ever seen nickname themselves and get away with it is Lawrence. But Lord don't lose.
What's that?
At Lord don't lose.
Yeah.
You're the only one I've ever seen get away with it. Like it fits for you. That actually works. That's a good nickname.
The Lord part, that actually, nobody knows the story, but it actually came from my father. He started calling me that when I was a kid. So actually,
He called you Lord.
Wow, that's
Yes.
a big way to
What did
boost
you
the
do
ego.
to earn this moniker?
Clean your room, Lord.
Were you
Hey, you're late for
heavenly?
dinner,
You were a
Lord.
heavenly child?
Speaking of dinner, it started out like as the Lord of greediness because I always would eat them out of house. So it started from that. That's where
right.
the Lord came from.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like that.
What a nurturing household you grew up in. How dare you eat, you hungry child? How dare you eat?
So we
Yeah,
answer
you
more
can't be-
questions than any show. #FF Pregame. We got to close out our thought on this Texans backfield this week. Matthew, you got your finger on the pulse.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's Cam Akers. Look, I get it, right? He's Cam Akers. He's all burned us before, but out-touched Dare Ngumbawale 8-4 in week number 2. Dare played 6 more snaps. Dare's a guy. Candidly, to me, he's just a guy. He's not an every down back, and he's a third down back if he can use him. There was only one goal line opportunity for the Texans. Cam Akers got it. Now, he fumbled. So, not great. But
And then he came out of the game and wasn't seen again.
But so listen, it is high risk, high reward territory. But I have it running back 27. You see it there on your screen. I just believe that I kind of like Akers as a high end flex play. I think the Texans are a pretty good offense. I think when they get in close, they're going to give it to Akers despite the fumble. He is somebody that has had success in the NFL at a high level. It has been up and down, obviously, with the Achilles and the injuries and weird in LA. He's in the doghouse. Now he's playing. Now he's traded. Now he's released. Like, it's all lots of nuttiness here. But I thought to the eye test, I thought both in the we talked about this in the preseason, but in the both preseason and last week, that looks like Cam Akers.
Yeah.
He has his burst. He definitely looked better than Dameon Pierce in the preseason. He won that number 2 role. Now Pearson's going to play today, so it doesn't matter. But I think volume of work and the overall efficiency of the Texans offense gets me there with Akers.
Yep, I agree.
I'm on board.
George the Greek on board.
All
You
right.
good, Greek?
Yeah. All right.
George the Greek and J Gun. We got quite the. We got quite the table here.
And Matthew Berry.
Yes.
Shot time, guys. Let's go shot for
Yeah,
shot.
let's go.
Predictions.
And Matthew the cancel.
This one's
Didn't mean to catch you off guard there,
It's all
Matthew. Wow.
pre-taped either.
I should really pay attention to the rundown.
Yeah. Predictions you feel real confident in. Round number 1.
I feel confident.
Oh,
yeah.
ship, Matthew. Let's start with you.
Here's a prediction I feel confident. Lawrence is going to be in this chair Monday. I'm going to be on the unemployment line. All right.
Well, then I'll be saying that same word to
There you go. All right. Here's I've already alluded to this many times. I will allude it to again. Jamar Chase, boat races my Commanders. I'm predicting 100 yards and 2 touchdowns. You heard me. 100 yards and 2 touchdowns as Jamar Chase finishes as the number 1 wide receiver in fantasy football for Week 3. He boat races my Commanders. Worth noting that through 2 weeks, no team has allowed more fantasy points or touchdowns to opposing wide receivers than my Washington Commanders. Jamar Chase, proud fantasy life investor, goes off on Monday night.
All right. Well, my one, in the same vein of good player has good game, Bijan Robinson. He
No,
explodes.
I said good player has great game.
Okay, well-
has amazing game.
Okay.
He's been quiet so far.
Okay, that's fair. No,
F you,
I'm-
Jay the Australian.
I was
Was it
Bijan
quite a
Robinson.
sky is blue prediction?
Bijan Robinson, who I think is the best running back in football. His Monday night performance against the Eagles was absolutely insane, even though he didn't show up in the stat line. He explodes on Sunday Night Football, and he is the offensive player of the year favorite come tomorrow morning. Right now, he's 14-1. To me, he should be the favorite. He's the number 1 guy rest of the season in fantasy. He should be the favorite for this award. He destroys the Chiefs.
Keep waiting for it to happen.
Wow.
Well, this should be the week.
Yes. I'm gonna go to these Chicago Bears and these Indianapolis Colts, who both of these teams is trying to get a win. I'm gonna go with Anthony Richardson right here. Bad week last week for him,
it
right,
was.
guys? Yeah.
Real bad.
Well, now he going up against the Bears, who got a little solid defense. C.J. Stroud was only quarterback 16 versus him in fantasy in week 2. Will Levis, quarterback 27 versus the Bears defense. Anthony Richardson will be a top 3 quarterback this week.
Wow.
He's getting back to it. Josh Down returns. Michael Pittman is active. And this 43.5 over-under is kind of high for a couple of 0-2 teams who've been struggling
Bears
to score.
are 1-1. Feels like 0-2.
I think 1-2. I'm sorry, 1-1. 1-1. I think this game actually goes over, but Anthony Richardson, who's making his 7th start, top 3 fantasy quarterback this week.
All right. Good call, Lawrence the Georgian.
I'm going to go Niners game, and we mentioned Brandon Ayuk, the volume he's going to get with Debo out this week and George Kittle. This number is over-under for receiving yards was at 70.5, has jumped up to 75.5. His last 4 games he's played when Debo's out, Ayuk has averaged 87 yards receiving per game, so I think he's going to top that number, going to cover the over. I think he's going to go for 100-plus and a touchdown against the Rams. So Brandon Ayuk finally going to show out week number 3. Let's go round number 2, Matthew.
Deontay Johnson scores at least 16 fantasy points. I'm telling you, you heard it here. The Red Rifle unlocks Deontay Johnson's fantasy value, negative game script. Deontay Johnson gets over 20% target share, catches a lot of passes, 16 fantasy points, and a big day coming for Deontay Johnson today.
Okay.
Yeah.
My next one, Geno Smith lights up the Dolphins, finishes as a top 5 quarterback in fantasy. He set it 233.5 passing yards. That's too low. He had 44 pass attempts last week. This Dolphins secondary is very suspect. Why are you grinning, Matthew? You like Geno?
No, I'm just thinking about George the Greek. Sorry.
Yeah, it's very still. Yeah.
I'm still thinking about that.
Yeah.
Makes me laugh.
Geno, the Seattle Seahawk, he goes off and he torches the Dolphins. If I could bet on one spread this weekend too, and I can bet on any spread I want.
You live in America.
Yeah,
well, exactly.
I will. It would be the Seahawks -4. I think they blow the Dolphins out behind Geno.
Yeah, I like that call. I
like
definitely
that
like the
call a
call
lot.
on Geno. Yeah.
All right, I'm going to stay in the same game, same position, different quarterback. Now, I did just think that the Bears had 0 wins, but Caleb Williams has 0 touchdown passes. But not after today. He'll throw his first touchdown pass today. That number is -330. Those odds are better. Those odds are better than Anthony Richardson. He's just simply going to throw a touchdown pass today. Indy's a bottom 10 team in fantasy versus quarterbacks, so there you go.
Lawrence the Georgian going out on a limb. The
Yeah.
-330 gets
Lawrence
He
is
got
saving.
0.
Lawrence is going to say something historical is going to happen this week. Something
Yes.
Caleb Williams
so
has
they
never
give
done
him a game ball
in his
So-
career in the
might.
NFL. For me, it's the Eagles game. Dallas Goedert, who has had a very high route participation through 2 weeks. A.J. Brown out. We've been waiting for, call it these tight ends in the 6 through 12 range to do something. Someone score. Someone go over 40 yards. Seems like every week you're looking at tight end numbers. It's 22 yards receiving, 38 yards receiving. I think this week Goddard goes for 50-plus and a touchdown for the Eagles. Dallas Goedert going to have some production.
A.J. Brown officially inactive as expected as well. So, all right, so my last, speaking of tight ends, I'll stick with the tight end position as well. Travis Kelce, I get it. Been bad, been brutal, but whatever. It's Sunday Night Football. It's tonight. Since the start of last year, Falcons top 6 in terms of most fantasy points allowed to opposing tight ends again. Kelce got tackled at the one last week. He had a 41-yard catch called back due to penalty. They need to get 87 going, especially given the fact that their run game is now a question mark. Travis Kelce becomes Travis Kelce again tonight. He finishes as a top 3 fantasy tight end this week. Travis Kelce. Let's go 8-7.
And a lot of people fading Kelce. I was reading the Sheesh report on
Yes.
Fantasy Life, and
Thank you.
broke down those two
plug.
parts where Kelce, sneaky, could have had a really good game if it wasn't for those two. But you look at the final
100%.
stat line.
George the Smart Greek.
Yeah.
You got to pay him now. A little something on the side
the
there.
clever Greek.
All right, Jay.
Okay, my last shot. The LA Chargers lean on J.K. Dobbins. He goes over 12.5 rushing attempts. I don't have a lot of analysis here. It just seems really low. 12.5, right? He's a lead running back on a team that runs the ball all the time.
And has a banged-up quarterback.
Yeah, Justin is 12.5. I just think he'll get 13 carries or more. So let's go, J.K.
The KISS method. I like it.
I like that call.
All right, for my last one, Same game. All right. Different position, though, because there's only 2 quarterbacks. I'm going to go DeAndre Swift. He ain't been looking too great so far. 24 carries for 48 yards this season so far. So I'm saying he double that. He goes 90. I was about to say 48. He goes 96 rushing yards against this Colts defense that's allowed 150-yard rushes 2 straight weeks. They're giving up the most rushing yards to running backs so far this season. DeAndre Swift. 96 yards. Bring me home, baby.
And he would spank that line. His rushing prop is what? I think at 55.5?
Yeah.
Somewhere around there. So
That's upper range.
He's going to go 40 plus that.
Unbelievable. Lawrence going 3 for 3 in Colts Bears.
Yeah.
Blockbuster.
Using
I'm
all
going to
his
enjoy
brain
this
power.
game. I'm going to enjoy this game right here.
I like that you just blew past the fact that George used the verb spank to describe DeAndre Swift.
That's very on brand.
That's that Greek stuff right there. Not that Georgian stuff.
Not even
We
going to
don't
touch
do that
that
in
Lawrence.
Georgia. We ain't doing that in old
boy.
Georgia down there.
Oh, boy.
All right, let's finish strong. I'll bring it on home, guys. Cardinals.
I take it back, Lawrence isn't going to be in this chair Monday.
I don't think anyone's going to be
take
in
it
these
back.
chairs.
I take it back. It's going to be like Chris Sims or somebody. I don't know.
Yeah, it's just going to be 4 empty seats for
Might be.
2 hours
Yeah,
for week 4.
Connor Rogers.
Might
Wondering
just
where
be
it's
Jay and Connor talking to each other.
I'm just
about the
saying
Mets.
what we don't do down
Denny,
in Atlanta.
it'll be Denny phoning
Just talking
in from
kickers
wherever.
for 2 hours. So I mean, home dogs, they went off in week number 2. Cardinals plus
Sure.
3 at home against the Lions.
I don't get that line at all.
I don't get it either. I would think closer to a PK or -1. I think they're pricing in last year's Lions against last year's Cardinals based on, if you just look at the eye test, everything we've seen so far. Cardinals played the Bills tough, could have easily won that game. Week number 1, blow out the Rams. They have a common opponent. The Lions barely got past the Rams week number 1, and the Cardinals beat them by 31 at home last week. So
That's actually correct.
they're getting 3 points. I like Cardinals getting the points, even sprinkle a little Cardinals money line. So I think the Cardinals are going to show that they're the real deal. Get to 2-1.
Yep, I like that.
I like those calls.
Yeah.
I like
Good
that call.
cards.
All right, so we have some start, sit, and inactives coming up. Justin Herbert, we're waiting to get official word if he's going to be under center. He's been testing that high ankle sprain, hoping to give it a go for week number 3. Also, Jordan Love, so we will
He
confirm
looks
that
like
next.
me. He looks like if I were trying. Look how slow and oh, good God.
I'm guessing that's not a compliment.
J.K. Dobbins.
No.
The Chargers undefeated right now, 2-0.
Yeah.
Battle of
Both up.
undefeated facing
Go,
the Steelers.
Charger, go.
Great on them.
the parking lot. It's like a.
Welcome back to FF Pregame. Packers quarterback Malik Willis getting his revenge game on the road. Jordan Love officially out. So it'd be Malik Willis trying to win for the second straight week as he's checking in at Nissan Stadium as the visitor for the first time. So notable week 3 injury updates. This for the early games. Justin Herbert is going to play. He's the only active on that list. All the other names, Keenan Allen's going to miss his second straight week. Jordan Addison out. Taysom Hill also out for the Saints. Thoughts on Herbert playing through the high ankle sprain as we're looking at the...
Oh, he may play for the Chargers. He ain't playing for me. Hell to no.
Late games.
I wouldn't start him with your crappy team.
I'm third in points.
He's still got to be getting started in a league of assholes. You can't just bench a quarterback like that in this league.
You can't. But
I'm glad I ain't got him.
Exactly. He hasn't been great so far fantasy-wise. It's a run-heavy offense. Now he's on the road to Pittsburgh, one of the best defenses in the NFL. And, oh, by the way, he's on half a leg. He's out there hobbling. He's got a strong arm, but it's a –
and two, he's also a dude who could get you 20, 30 rush yards, and that's not going to be a factor today either.
No, TJ Watt's going to – he can't escape TJ Watt. He's going to hobble
healthy.
away.
That's hard to do healthy.
Right, exactly.
T. Higgins finally
That's my point.
playing. He has confirmed that he will play. We showed all those other guys who are out. So many tight ends are out this week. Taysom Hill, Evan Ingram, George Kittle, all sitting on the sidelines for week number 3. Let's dive in now to the Deep League waiver ads. These are players available in over 50% of leagues. Some of the names to keep a watch for. So Cam Akers, we've been hitting on throughout the show. Samaje Perine. How about Deonta Foreman? Had 14 carries last week. Anyone think that we're going to see similar usage from the Browns week number 3 in a game that you would think they're going to win?
Yeah, exactly right. Week 1, it was a lot of Jerome Ford, but they were down to the Cowboys. Week 2, where they controlled the game more often, it was much more of a split, and now they go against the Giants, where obviously they're favored, and New York is bottom 5 in terms of rushing yards allowed to running backs. Of those running backs that are there, Foreman has as good a chance as any of them to fall into the end zone. I'd probably prefer Akers, just better offense and more of the work. But after Akers, I think Foreman's got the best chance at a touchdown of the guys on the list here as well. I do think Ty Chandler should be rostered in every single league. Just Aaron Jones is already banged up. Chandler's getting a decent amount of work to begin with. Your guy, George.
Yeah, come on. George, come on. You got the right audience here. He went for 10 carries for 82 yards last week. Basically, almost a split now with Aaron Jones. For wide receivers, Juwan Jennings, you got him clocking in at 34. How about Darnell Mooney last week?
How about Darnell Mooney?
3 catches, 84 yards, and a touchdown. All preseason we were hearing, hey, he's going to be solidified as the Falcons' number 2 wide receiver. We saw it last week, Lawrence.
Yeah, and I think the week before that we was talking about Ray McLeod, and now Darnell Mooney showed up, got the 42-yard touchdown there. Adam Thielen is interesting because now, we saw last year through 10 weeks he was a top 12 wide receiver in fantasy, but now you got Andy Dalton in the mix. So is it going to be Deontay Johnson? Is it going to be Adam Thielen, or maybe both?
Jay Sangino Smith is going to be a top 5 quarterback this week. Mike Gesicki last week went for 90-plus receiving yards. So is he going to be a thing in this Bengals offense? Or is that a 1-week outlier?
Yeah, I think it's somewhere in between. I think he's got, more potential than before, but obviously that was without T. Higgins. Let's see what this offense looks like with T. Higgins. Then again, it's my Commanders. Andrei Yoshevich might have 200 yards receiving. Everyone's bad.
Anything is possible.
Anything is possible. It's all
is that Kevin Garnett?
Anything is possible.
Likewise, anything possible for Geno Smith. I think the really key thing there is how much they're passing the ball with Ryan Grubb. Huge pass rate over expectation last week.
All right, we got our desperation plays for second straight week. We were hot last week. Quentin Johnson, you had 2 touchdowns. I had Wan'Dale Robinson had a touchdown. So these are guys available in more than 80% of leagues. Matthew, kick us off.
So I like, let me think.
You like Jordan Whittington,
I do.
according to the graphic.
I do like Jordan Whittington. Sorry.
That's good television.
Thank you very much. Yeah. Look, we talked about this in the previous segment as well about Whittington, right? This is somebody who ran a ton of routes in the slot, had a big preseason as well, Whittington did. And so I think he's the most likely Cooper Kupp replacement in this offense as well. So against San Francisco, which is, a little bit banged up, and certainly the Niners are heavy favorites in this game. So I think they're going to have to throw. So, the Niners, which, by the way, very quietly are a bottom 10 pass defense through 2 games. Like, there's nothing that really scares you about there. They're banged up in the secondary again. So Whittington, to me, who, again, played 100% of the snaps in the second half of last week, is going to play the slot. He blocks, which gets you on the field in a Sean McVay offense. I like Jordan Whittington. I like Jordan Whittington as a sleeper today, and I really like him for the rest of the season, or as long as Cooper Kupp is out, which is going to be a couple more weeks.
Yeah. To your point about the Niners defense, they are really coasting off the reputation they built under DeMeco Ryans, which was 2 years ago. Like, the defense wasn't great last year, hasn't been great to start this year. They're getting older, they're banged up as well. So, yeah, I think that Stafford could have success if that offensive line can keep him upright against Nick Bosa. My deep guy, Jalen Naylor, he's the number 2 wide receiver in a team that has a competent passing offense and plays in a dome, and he's suspected Derek Stingley is going to go to Justin Jefferson. He's set at 37.5 receiving yards. I think that's 10 yards too low. I think Jalen Naylor could be viable today.
I'm actually going to go with Jahan Dotson here. Another week without A.J. Brown. He was actually outproduced by Britton Covey last week as the receivers, but Jahan Dotson played 79% of the snaps. So in 2 wide receiver sets, it's going to be Dotson and Devontae Smith, so I wouldn't pay too much attention to that. You got the high over-under at 49.5 between the Eagles and Saints, so my deep shot play would be Jahan Dotson.
I believe that's the second highest over-under this week.
Yeah, after the Cardinals and Lions game.
You want a guy going out on a limb. Lawrence Pickens,
well,
he's not even ranked.
He didn't have. I don't know if that stands for not ranked, not reliable, not really, but he's not something.
Not really.
We want your questions throughout the show. Hashtag FF Pregame. I'm going Jalen Tolbert on the Cowboys at 6 for 82 last week. Will he emerge as the number 2 on the Cowboys offense? Time for Prop a Shot. Matthew, of course, needs to stand up, needs his leverage.
Damn right.
We went 2 for 4 last week as a team.
Yeah, we did. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
You go, Matthew. Go ahead.
Damn it.
Touchdown!
Jay's been hot
All right,
this
so,
year.
you go.
so Jay is
I'll stand up
Yeah.
also. I'm 0 for 2 this season.
I don't know about the standing thing.
Yeah.
I'll go. There we
There
go.
we go.
There we
nice.
go. We back.
Oh, 3 for 4.
Well done, Matthew. Well done,
Ba-bam!
Matthew. Yes.
That's
Good
good.
job,
Listen,
Matthew.
it's a team thing.
Yeah.
So we could get 3-4, but just know that
Yep.
Just never
I'm
forget
keeping
who
score.
missed.
It's a team thing, but I'm keeping score.
Matthew just got cut from the team.
Prop a Shot. This brought to you
Not
by
the first team I've been
DraftKings.
cut from, but certainly the worst. All right.
Just kick it off with Jay. Jordan Mason, rushing and receiving yards. It's a big number, 110.5.
Yeah, it's a little bit too big for me. He set about 20 rushing yards higher than any other running back in football. And I get it because it's a Shanahan offense going up against a weak defense, but still a little bit too high for me just given the lack of receiving upside. I think this is going to be a game where Purdy is forced to throw. I think he'll be successful getting the ball to Ayuk and Jennings.
Lawrence, Andy Dalton, passing attempts. I like this one, 31.5.
Oh, that number's come down too. I'm gonna say under. I don't think he'll need that many pass attempts to get Deontay Johnson and maybe Adam Thielen going. I'm gonna say he gets 30 passing attempts. The Raiders are gonna try to bleed the clock with that run game.
How majestic is his player profile pic? He's got the flow going.
Oh, yeah.
Game of
Full
Thrones
beard.
character.
I know.
It's the red rifle, baby.
Yeah. Matthew, Tony Pollard, rushing yards, 64.5.
That's a big number, but I'm still going over it here. Look, so far this season, he's averaging 16.5 running back carries this season. He's gotten 77% of the Titans' running back carries. Packers allow 5.5 yards per carry to running backs. That's 4th highest in the NFL as a home favorite. I think they lean on Tony Pollard here, try to take the ball out of Will Levis's hands a little bit, let him get settled here. They're not going to have to score a ton. I don't think Malik Willis is going to light up the Titans on the other side, so kind of a grinded-out game. Give me the over on 64.5 for Tony Pollard.
Validation game for the Saints. Derek Carr, this number has been creeping up week to week. The line set for his passing yards at 239.5, Chad.
Yeah, I'll take the over here. I think his passing yards have been suppressed by the fact that they've been winning these first 2 games by 1 million points. I think this will be a little bit closer. Eagles' pass defense is still not fixed. It hasn't been fixed under Vic Fangio. It was terrible down the stretch against the Falcons, so I'll take the over on Derek Carr in this new explosive Saints Cliff Kubiak offense.
Our next guy, Malik Neighbors on the Giants. I got a little exposure on him winning Offensive Rookie of the Year because Jay Croucher has assured me that the G-Men are going to win the NFC East.
Damn right, George.
So it's
Lost today.
receiving
loss.
yards number, it is at 66.5.
Yeah, this is interesting because this number has actually come down too, and it's hard to take the under after last week. I'm taking the under, if not for a 66-yard heave for Brian Thomas Jr. last week in a comeback attempt. The Browns haven't allowed this number to any receiver, and then it's the Browns defense. I'm gonna go under here.
This number for the Steelers, Justin Fields 2-0 right now as starter, trying to keep that perfect start going, but he hasn't put up gaudy numbers by any means, hasn't turned over the ball, so his passing yards and receiving yards total prop, Matthew, is 211.5.
I'm taking the under here. So far this season, he's averaging 178 pass and rushing yards per game, like total yardage. 178. Again, Chargers really good defense, right? LA second in total defense through 2 weeks. I think this is the lowest scoring game on the slate in terms of over/under. I think it's going to be super ugly. This could be just another field goal game, another only one team scores a touchdown game. I'm going to take the under on 211.5 rushing and passing yards for Justin Fields.
Chargers defense has to be one of the biggest turnarounds in the
Jim
entire
Harbaugh,
NFL. It's amazing what a new coaching staff can do with the pieces that they've had in place for the Dolphins.
Yeah.
And you think
should we call up Brandon Staley and just fire him again?
Who did the Chargers play last week?
Like Bryce Young, Carolina Panthers.
What about? So they went against the Raiders and Panthers.
It's not great, so
All
let's
right,
see.
I mean,
good call out.
I wasn't even me. I was because I knew they had played the Panthers. I was trying to figure out who else they played.
26-3 win.
Let's see how they go next week against the Chiefs.
Yeah.
Stuff.
Where they even
Good start. They
it's
did
not
what
a great
a good
offense.
team should do, which is
Yes.
they beat up on a bad team.
Look, that's what
You can't hold that against them.
Listen, it's an NFL team. I really was trying to see who else they played, but
Putting us on the
we
spot
finna
there.
see something today.
Yeah, like everyone's in our league of assholes. Is Big Show's team for real? You're like, you don't
Where's your
know
prop?
yet. He beat up on Jay's team. That's fine. He crushed a team that he should beat. A bad team. But when he starts playing the elite teams in the league, then we'll see.
Yeah, like
We'll
me
just-
this week.
Right,
Sure.
like you this week, Lawrence. We'll see.
Coming
The
from
jury's still out on Big Show.
Matthew's team put up 106 in a Superflex league there last week and lost, but that's okay.
All right. By one win this season against you. It is what it is.
Bragging rights matter.
It does matter. Josh, I'm the defending champ. Josh Allen's going to get it together. I'm not worried about it.
All right.
Bad game last week from Josh Allen, but that's not going to happen.
Fantasy Life Investor.
Fantasy life investor.
Nice plug there. We know the Dolphins, Raheem Mostert out this week. Is it going to be a heavy usage game for Devon Achane? It's rushing and receiving prop at 107.5.
Very scary taking the under on Devon Achane. Never fun, but I'm going to do it anyway. I'm worried about the receiving, but I think that the Seahawks are going to blow them out, and the rushing will be hard to come by.
Baker Mayfield passing yards 231.5 for the Bucs and Lawrence.
He had under this last game, but I'm going to go over here. I think he gets his work done early. They make light work of the Broncos early, so I got him going over here. Another thing to note is last week the Lions gained them in time of possession 33 to 26 minutes. That won't be the case here. Give me the over on Baker.
I got burned on this last week with the Bears. DJ Moore, his receiving yards at 60.5, Matthew.
I'm going to go over here. Look, 29% target share last week without Keenan Allen. Keenan Allen's not going to play again today as well. And you think about this Colts defense. No team allows a higher catch rate to opposing wide receivers than the Indianapolis Colts. I actually think Caleb Williams, you heard my guy Lawrence say that Caleb Williams was going to throw a touchdown pass today. Like he went on a limb at minus 330. My guy Lawrence.
It's tough.
And it said,
He's never been done before.
It has never been done before. I'm actually going to support my guy Lawrence here and say that, I think this is, I'm not going to say it's great, but I think Caleb Williams has his best game of the year so far. I understand that's a low bar to clear, but I think he gets a little bit better. It's a nice match with the Colts, and I certainly think a big part of that is DJ Moore, so give me the over on 60.5 receiving yards for the man they call DJ.
We'll run it through our last three, Jay. Derrick Henry, rushing attempts, 15.5.
Over, I think the Ravens lean on the run going up against a very suspect Cowboys run defense.
Marvin Harrison Jr., what a week he had last week. 4 catches, 130 yards, 2 touchdowns. His number is at 62.5 for the Cardinals.
Yeah, riding that wave, going over. Lions have allowed this to number 3 receivers in the past 2 games, so I got over for Marvin Harrison Jr.
Okay, you said it's going to be a big week for Travis Kelce. His reception number is at 4.5, Matthew.
Yeah, by the way, the Falcons have allowed at least 5 receptions to an opposing tight end in both games this season. Travis Kelce played 89% of the snaps so far this season. He leads the team in routes. It just hasn't manifested itself in production through 2 games. I think that will change tonight again. Primetime game on the road at Atlanta. Run game banged up. Patrick Mahomes needs Travis Kelce to be the guy, by the way. And I just know the way Raheem Morris plays defense is they're going to want to play back. They're not going to want to give up the big play. So I think a lot of the underneath stuff, you mentioned 2 high safeties, Lawrence. I think you'll see some of that tonight. I think the underneath stuff, especially for Raheem Morris, he comes from the Tampa 2 kind of defensive school. So yeah, give me Travis Kelce over 4.5 receptions tonight. Big game coming for 8-7 tonight.
Bend but don't break for the Falcons. And remember, DraftKings Sportsbook.
Oh, yeah.
The #1 place to bet touchdowns. We're going to have our touchdown parlay from us 4 later in the show. New customers can bet $5, get $200 in bonus bets instantly. Download the app. Use the promo code BARRY when you sign up. DraftKings Sportsbook. The crown is yours. Steeler Nation, all the way from Australia. Some of your buddies there, down under.
Okay.
It's not my mom.
I'm about to say, she's
Not Mama
a
Crown.
fan, huh?
Welcome to Acrisure Stadium.
That's a very Australian thing to fly all the way to the United States for an NFL game, but it's
And
Justin
go-
Fields
and
versus
go to
it's just-
Pittsburgh.
right? It's Justin Fields versus one leg Justin Herbert.
Well, they don't pronounce their R's, so who knows what they're doing.
My first Steelers game, they're trying to wave. They're very friendly? Is that an
We're very
Australian
friendly
thing?
people.
What happened with you then?
Are you guys ready for my Sunday Night Football promo voice?
Yeah.
Tonight, Patrick Mahomes and the reigning champion Chiefs head to Atlanta as Kirk Cousins and the Falcons look to go back-to-back in primetime tonight, 7 Eastern on NBC and Peacock. Football Night in America, of course, the precursor to the main event, Sunday Night Football. Yeah. They were saying the biggest game, the home game that the Falcons have had, Lawrence, in 7 years or so?
I think it's the first time they've been on Sunday Night Football since 2019.
Yeah. Falcons getting a little. I need the Falcons to do well this year. Let's still settle down, Falcons.
Yeah.
Let's just win the game. Yeah. Let's get above 500 before we start calling.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Bird up. Yeah. They're giving away free potato chips at the game. No potato chips for free until the playoffs are clinched.
Yeah, exactly.
It don't matter because the Chick-fil-A be closed on Sunday anyway.
Who could forget their battle cry of bird up?
Bird up. Potato chips for closers. Everyone knows that. Come on.
Quarterback rankings 1 through 10. Matthew Berry,
sure.
Joe Burrow.
I've heard of him.
At
Proud fantasy life investor, Joe Burrow.
At number 5, the addition of T. Higgins back, assuming he plays. How impactful will that be?
Yeah, I think it'll be impactful, but even more impactful is they get to play the Commanders. Again, I mean, I say this all the time. Like, everyone wants to heap praise on Dave Canales for resurrecting the careers of Geno Smith and Baker Mayfield. But what about my Commanders secondary? They can resurrect anyone. Daniel Jones was a top 6 fantasy quarterback last week against my Commanders defense. Daniel Jones. Lawrence threw for 200 yards against them in a practice.
At least.
I mean, anyway. So Joe Burrow, I was the top 5 quarterback here, dating back to last season. 8 of the last 10 quarterbacks to face my Commanders scored at least 18 fantasy points. Again, both not only Daniel Jones but Baker Mayfield also top 6 against Washington as well. Through 2 weeks, a lot of people are like, wow, Commanders are bad. Yes, we are. We don't lead in a lot of statistical categories, but one that we do, no team is allowed a higher passer rating than the Washington Commanders and the second highest touchdown rate. There is one team better than us in that. But like we're right up there in terms of just, allowing teams to score at us at will. So there you go.
No get right elixir better
there
than
you
the
go.
Commanders
Joey
secondary.
B. Gonna light it up on Monday night.
YouTube question, hashtag FF pregame from Carl Wright. Man, I'm tilted.
Don't be tilted, Carl.
Man, we feel you. On whether to start Dobbins, Higgins, or McLaurin PPR.
Definitely starting Dobbins. And then I think it's here's what I would say. Tell me what you guys think about this. I would start Dobbins. Higgins and McLaurin play each other on Monday night. And I think I would wait to see where I was Monday night, which is that I think that if I'm down and I need upside, I think Higgins is the play. But if I'm just like, you know what, I just need, some production, then I think McLaurin. In a vacuum, I'm starting Higgins just because he's the guy that gets to face Washington. But it's his first game back, and I do know that Cliff Kingsbury talked to the press earlier this week about, hey, we've got to start moving, you think? But you got to start moving Terry McLaurin around in the formations. So they're going to try to do some different things. I think there's been such kind of a steady drumbeat that they're going to make it a point of trying to get him the ball, him and Jaden Daniels. But that's how I would approach it, honestly, is just sort of see where I'm at heading into Monday night. I don't know if you guys...
I think you'd only start one of them, though.
Yeah,
I thought it was one of the 2 of the 3.
No,
one of the
just
3.
one. I think Dobbins is the
Which
guy.
was Dobbins.
But it was a good explanation. If
Well, somebody else is in that situation. There you go. The answer's Dobbins.
Yeah.
Don't tilt. Carl, there you go.
Yeah, have a glass of ice water and start J.K. Dobbins.
We touched on Burrow, also among the top 10. Jay,
Thanks. By the way, you know what? Can I just tell you something? I just want to tell America here, right? So obviously I misread the question. They're all coming in fresh to me. But, instead of anyone interrupting me, these assholes just let me go on and on and on.
They're being polite.
But they actually ended up correcting you at some point.
Yeah,
it was me who I never said anything.
Yeah.
But
that's why all of you are in the league of assholes.
That's probably because I was trying to figure out the question too.
Yeah, whatever. Now you understand that because they're all in the league with me, and that's why it's the league of assholes, because they are all, in fact.
I just wanted to hear a hypothetical answer to a question that didn't exist.
Is this show over yet? Can I go home?
We got 50 minutes.
Yeah, 51 minutes to go.
CJ Stroud, George. So I think the Vikings defense, I think Brian Flores might be the best defensive coordinator in football, but there are smoke and mirrors aspects to it. I think that CJ Stroud, the type of quarterback he is, the way he succeeds just in the pure drop back passing scheme, I think that he's
got glasses. He's brainy.
He is
That's
brainy.
what that means.
He's very clever. He's going to solve Brian Flores' defense.
I
think Tank Dell, I think he is going to get right today. I think Diggs is going to be more involved as well. And I think this Houston Texans passing game, which has been a little bit underwhelming so far, I think it gets on track and Stroud solves the Vikings. And can be started everywhere with confidence, naturally.
Yeah.
Let's drop down to 11 through 20. Matthew, Kirk Cousins, a heck of a comeback drive he had. I think that was almost as much of an indictment of the Eagles.
2-0 if Saquon Barkley could catch.
This is true. Almost as much of an indictment of the Eagles' defense, specifically their secondary, that final drive. But Cousins at 14, he was basically being left for dead after week number 1. Started to more closely resemble Kirk Cousins from what we've seen in previous seasons.
For sure. I mean, look, and the Chiefs are favored in this game through 2 weeks. Only one team in the NFL has allowed more passing yards per game in the league than the Kansas City Chiefs. Teams that face KC are averaging over 38 pass attempts per game, third most in the NFL. They're going to want to run, but I don't think they're going to be able to. I think they have to throw some. He's my QB 14 again after the Thursday night game's been taken out.
Lawrence, we got Sam Darnold at 16. Call me crazy. Couple leagues, I dropped Trevor Lawrence for Sam Darnold. Is that going to be a smart decision rest of the year?
It's going to be a smart decision today.
Okay.
Definitely. Look, Sam Darnold, QB 13 in week 1 versus the Giants. That's okay. QB 4 in week 2 versus the Niners. Now, the interesting thing about that is 5 carries for 32 yards he had against the Niners. This Houston defense has given up 100 rushing yards so far to quarterbacks. That's the second most in the league. So he'll be able to do that a little bit against them. 2 straight games with a 2 touchdown to 1 interception ratio. I think it'll be solid. Look, the Houston defense is good, but it ain't great. We saw Anthony Richardson have a top week against them week 1. So I think Sam Darnold could actually, he could end up outplaying this ranking.
He's got some shift to him. I actually met him. Obviously, I do a lot of golf stuff.
Sure.
At the 3M Open, and Darnold is buddies with Jim Nantz, and I was doing the early coverage for Golf Channel, and I at first couldn't tell because I'm walking off set, see this massive dude in the booth, and then walking out, met Sam Darnold. You don't really have an appreciation for just how big a presence he is till you're up close. He's been off to a fast start. I think the 32 rushing yards, the cherry on top, not something that you can really hope for.
George the name dropper?
Week to week.
Did he tell you about how he going to do in week 3?
He did not. No, this was preseason back in July.
Told that to Jim Nantz.
I love the honesty here. We got one guy tilted.
Cut to George next week. Talk with Jim Nantz. Like, you'd be surprised at how bald Barry is. Like, like you think he's bald, but then you meet him in person, you're like, holy crap!
I
that
prefer
is one shiny dome.
Matthew, I would prefer
that a-hole.
Follically challenged if we're instead of bald's kind of a
bald. Yeah.
How about we go from tilted to in my drunken state? I dropped Kyler Murray. You're ride or die. How hammered do you have to be,
Jerry?
What was you drinking?
I mean, that is an all-time move.
Are you absent? What are you on?
They just sent Kyler Murray's jersey to Canton because he had a perfect passer rating last week, and you drop. But we appreciate the honesty. So maybe able to pick him up off waivers. How could you pick him up? I doubt it, though. Wow, roller coaster of emotions here.
Just drunk. He was drunk and mad.
Yeah.
You got to
Angry
what
drunk.
did he?
Again, like IG Live, a lot of buttons. A lot of buttons.
Exactly. You got to do a lot of steps to do that,
Not
Jay.
sure this holds
You
up.
need a lot of.
It's just
Usually you rage drop somebody after a bad game.
Exactly.
Come on,
Jerry,
Jerry.
an agent of chaos. So his options now.
Well, in terms of whom to pick up today, Rodgers already played, so he's locked. But he's asking for rest of the season. So you've got Rodgers, Darnold, Cousins, and Goff. They're all sort of all right there. I'm tempted with Darnold, but I think I'm still going to go with Jared Goff. I know he's been bad. I know Jared Goff has been bad through 2 weeks, but I feel like just the offensive weapons that he has. I get it.
I probably would go Goff.
I think I'm probably going Goff. I wouldn't feel good about it though. I will say this though, it's clearly a 1 quarterback league if those guys are on the waiver wire, and so I think I would go Goff, and I would probably just play the matchups. Like I think you could probably just stream quarterbacks. Like if all 4 of those guys are out there on your waiver wire, plus Kyler Murray.
But just the
and obviously somebody will drop a decent quarterback to pick up the Kyler Murray that you.
But that's the
dropped.
thing, though. These are the decent quarterbacks that are dropped. He dropped a great fantasy quarterback.
I understand.
Yeah.
I understand.
Now he got a stream.
I think the reasonable outcome here, and I know this is like a bigger discussion, but he should be allowed to pick him up and just waste his waiver priority or whatever. He should be able to pick him up.
That's his
Nah, that's what you get.
Yeah,
I think so.
Matthew, in the pantheon of worst drops you've ever seen.
I'm a benevolent leader.
Where does this stack up?
By the way, neither of those things are true. You are neither a leader nor benevolent. You are Australian.
A raging follower.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. But I'm actually sort of with Jay in this sense that, like, if somebody, I get what you're saying there, but like if he immediately texted the commissioner, hey, like I was like drunk and I was trying to drop the kicker and like Kyler was right there, whatever. Like, you know what I mean? Like, ultimately, at the end of the day, fantasy is supposed to be fun, and clearly no one, after his best game of his career, is, purposely dropping Kyler Murray.
Yeah.
I'm always big on intent. And, like, I would just be like, you know what I mean? Like, and also, by the way, it somewhat upsets the competitive balance in the
Yes.
league. Like, a guy the talent of Kyler Murray should not be on the waiver wire in week 3. If I was the commissioner, I would be like, again, like if he tells me 2 days later, then too bad. But like,
Exactly.
if
That's
he
what I
drops
think
it,
he did.
If he drops it, he just by the time he sobered up,
And then he blamed it on the alcohol.
All right.
Running back rankings now.
But anyway, for today, I'd probably do Goff, against in what should be a shootout against Arizona, and I would probably just rest the season,
Goff, yeah.
Goff. But Darnold's in the mix too.
That's got to be one of the worst drops you've ever seen.
Yeah, it's brutal. Yeah, I mean, whatever.
Not to pour salt in the guy's
Well,
wounds.
and what's awful is that now Jerry's going to need to drink more. Like, he was drunk and he did it, and like, you never want to say alcohol solves problems, but in this case, Jerry, you might glug, you know what I'm saying? Like, just, just forget what you did there.
Good on you to face your problems, Jerry.
Yeah.
Questions, tweet the show. Hashtag FF Pregame. We answer more questions than any
imagine,
other
by the way,
football
like,
pregame show.
I'm not trying to make fun of the process here, but, can you imagine if you're in an Alcoholics Anonymous meeting? And like what you have to do with those meetings is like you have to admit that you admit that you're a drunk, admit you're an alcoholic, and you have to talk about like some of the worst things you've done because of what alcohol is. Can you imagine you're sitting there at a meeting and just like, wow, I dropped Kyler Murray.
Got him confused with Young Wei Koo.
I mean, again, I'm absolutely not making fun of the process, which is a very important one, and I've had a lot of friends that have gone through that, and it's a fantastic organization, but I'm just saying, like, that particular, like, boy, that's a bad one. All right, yeah, let's move on.
Running backs?
Yeah.
What a segue.
Yeah, George the Greek, figure it out from here. How much gold do I got to spin for you? Come on. I can't carry the whole show.
This is Emmy Award winning, to say the least. Jordan Mason at number 3 at the Rams. It seems like it's going to be a heavy usage game for him, Matthew.
His 2 starts so far, he's averaging 25 touches. He's playing 81% of the snaps. And by the way, through 2 weeks, the Rams are allowing 154 rushing yards per game. They're giving up 5 yards per carry to opposing running backs. Both games this season, the Rams have allowed 25 points or more to opposing running backs. Jordan Mason's my running back 3, and I might be too low on him.
Next guy on the list right after him, Saquon Barkley.
Yeah, and
Number 4.
I like that you you didn't rank him too low, despite the fact that he's facing the Saints defense, who's allowed the least amount of fantasy points to running backs this season. They've allowed the 4th fewest amount of rushing yards to running backs this season, but they went against Carolina's backfield. They went against the Cowboys' backfield. That's not Saquon Barkley. That man you looking at on the screen right now is currently the RB3 in fantasy football, and I think he has another solid game.
Is he wearing Saints colors, though? It looks, doesn't that?
The Eagles got rid of
I
it
know he's got
after
an
the
Eagles
drop-offs.
logo on it, but it's sort of like,
That might be the little filter on there.
is that what it is? Because don't you think it looks a little Saintsy?
Yep.
Weird.
Well, he's playing for the other team his last play.
Yeah,
Another 100-yard day in play.
Oh, J-Gun. Okay, guys, 11 through 20. We got Kenneth Walker officially out again. Can be a big Zach Charbonnet week.
Yeah, time
clocking
to
in at number 11, Matt.
try to sip some Charbonnet. Look, week 2, he handled 100%. You heard me. 100%. No apologies. 100% of the running back touches last week for Zach Charbonnet. Played 95% of the snaps, and he's had 4 career games where he's been the lead running back. Right? He averages over 19 touches in those games. He has an over 11% target share. And by the way, the Dolphins have allowed the 6th most fantasy points to opposing running backs through 2 weeks. They are at home as a favorite. Sky Thompson is going to do his best, but the fact of the matter is I think you could see some short fields. The Seahawks up in the second half. Big day coming for Zach Charbonnet, who's my running back 11 this week.
Jay, we got King Henry at 15. You think he's going to end up in that spot? Can he outperform or underwhelm?
think he can outperform. He's maybe the most game script dependent back in football at the moment, just in terms of his upside. But if the Ravens get up and they are favored in this game, though it is only by a point, then I think Henry going up against his Dallas defense, like, it wouldn't be shocking if the Ravens get up and Derrick Henry has like a Derrick Henry game where he's 140 yards and 2 touchdowns on the ground. So I think he will get right. Just as a quick aside, one guy from the earlier list, Alvin Kamara's rushing prop a week ago was 50.5. This week it's 71.5. There's a massive adjustment. So DraftKings, the market, very much buying into Alvin Kamara and this Saints offense.
I mean, he's looking like vintage Alvin Kamara.
Yeah, he's looking like the guy who scored, 6 touchdowns on Christmas against the Vikings?
Yeah, he damn near did it last week.
Yeah, I know.
Exactly.
At 21 through 30, and this guy, Matthew, Lawrence said is going to go off. DeAndre Swift, it's 96 yards?
Yeah.
For the
96,
Bears running back. He's thinking a big upside week against the Colts.
My guy Lawrence is a smart guy. I agree with him here. Through 2 weeks, DeAndre Swift has gotten 76% of the team running back touches. One of the reasons he fell in drafts was, is there going to be Khalil Herbert, Roshan Johnson? Like, is this going to be really kind of a committee? And honestly, it hasn't been. It has been the DeAndre Swift show. The offense has struggled somewhat, but I think they get back on track today against the Colts, who've allowed the most rushing yards in the NFL so far this season. Again, take some pressure off Caleb Williams. No Keenan Allen. I think they'll be able to run successfully. So DeAndre Swift, he's my running back 21. You heard my guy Lawrence say he's going to get almost 100 yards. We like DeAndre today.
Yeah.
Lawrence, our guy at 23, an eye test last week, was way more impressive than the man who led the Browns in carries, and that's Jerome Ford.
Yeah, definitely out-carried by Foreman 14-7, but on those 7 carries, we saw Ford get the 64 yards. The week before, he had the touchdown. I mean, I would say, like, you should feel decent about both of them today. They're going against the Giants, who allowed the 5th most rushing yards to running backs this season. They're coming off back-to-back games where last week, Brian Robinson, 133 yards. Aaron Jones the week before, 94 yards in the TD. So I like Ford today.
From Blaine, a YouTube question, #FF Pregame. Juwan Jennings, Calvin Ridley, Jerome Ford, full point PPR.
All right.
So
he only wants one, right,
He
Jay?
wants one.
He wants one?
Yeah. Actually, I think he wants all 3.
Yeah.
Just got to choose which one's your favorite.
I'm going to say Calvin Ridley. Here, I get it with Juwan Jennings. You know, you heard Lawrence's talk up Jerome Ford, and we've talked to Juwan Jennings. But Calvin Ridley's just sort of been consistent in terms of the production. Game script should work for him as well on the road at Buffalo on Monday night. I also think he's the best player on that list. Generally speaking, I try to just go with who's the best player. You know,
Best of football?
Best at the actual football. Yeah.
I agree with that.
Lawrence, you're thinking long and hard on this.
Well, because every time you look at that, we watch the game. We watch every game at once, right, in the screening room. And every time I look up, Calvin Ridley catching some deep pass or something like that. But then you look back again, and it's a Will Levis turnover. So I'm gonna go with the Calvin Ridley as well.
Will Levis is catching straight.
Matthew passionately defended him.
It's messed up too, because like I like Will Levis. Like he cool. You introduced me to him. He cool, but it is what it is.
A little name dropper here.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, see,
he's a nice guy. I own that. Like I personally like the guy, but I also think, like, again, put the guy in a position to succeed. Like, so his mistake is that he's trying too hard to win. You know, he could be out here phoning it in like George. You know what I mean? Like, no, he's out there hustling his ass off. You know,
I'm 3rd in points. Just off to an 0-2 start. I'm bound to win.
All right, George the Great.
This is a toilet bowl.
Keep talking yourself into it.
Okay, wide receiver ranks. Brandon Ayuk at number 7. I mean, obviously he was a holdout during the preseason, sluggish start first couple weeks. This seems like the week he's poised, Matthew.
88% of the snaps in week 2. That was up from 60% in week 1, so they're getting him back up to speed as well. And we talk about Deebo Samuel not playing in this game. He had a 29% target share. Last year, when Brandon Ayuk got at least 8 targets in a game, we certainly think he gets 8 targets today with no Deebo or George Kittle. He's averaging over 20 fantasy points per game. Through 2 games, the Rams have allowed the most yards and most touchdowns on deep passes. Like, you can run on the Rams, you can also throw on them. It's been a tough year for the Rams, if I'm being honest with you.
Got a question here. To be clear, Matthew, pick 2. Ayuk, Diggs, or James Conner. That's from Dave Hess on YouTube.
This is, by the way, Dave Hess, great team, because I don't think you can screw this up because I like all 3 of them, but I will say that I think Ayuk and Connor for me, because those are the guys that we know are going to touch the ball the most. Like I think today is actually a Tank Dell day. Like I think they got to get Tank Dell. He's due. Collins is always going to get his as well. So I don't want to say I'm nervous about Diggs because I think he'll be fine. But Connor's touching the ball 20 times. Ayuk's going to get 8 to 10 targets. So I think those are my two choices there.
I think you actually can screw it up by taking Diggs. I would put the other two in a tier above Diggs. If you take out Diggs, like his production
I
so
think
far.
Diggs will be fine too.
Yeah, he's fine. But I think that like Connor can be a top 10 running back. Ayuk we have here as a top 7 wide receiver.
Yeah.
Diggs, a lot of his production was those 2 touchdowns against Indianapolis. Outside of that, he hasn't had like a ton of targets. A little bit worried that Diggs could be the third guy in this passing game ultimately.
Which is where he'd stack up if you looked at the yardage props for the 3 guys. Diggs would be the laggard.
Today's a Tank Dell day.
trio.
I'm just, mark my words. Today's a Tank Dell day.
Do you think Tank Dell get at least 4 catches today?
I do indeed.
All right. I put that in. That's what I'm asking.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's some,
I think it's a nice, whatever his yardage prop is, give me the over.
It's 51
some
and a half.
positive
Give me the over.
affirmation there.
Give me the over.
With the Texans, Nico Collins has looked like the complete alpha, going over 100 yards in both weeks number 1 and number 2. So week 3, we got him, Barry's ranks at number 6 right now.
Number 6. Firstly, incredible that top 10 list. No Tirico Hill, healthy Tirico Hill. That shows you where
Wild.
we're at. With Skylar Thompson.
Yeah.
With Nico Collins,
When I did those rankings, though, he was Skylar, not Sky.
Okay, that's
Just
true.
to be fair.
Yeah, he wasn't ST money.
Adjust them.
So with Nico Collins, he's had 250 plus receiving yards. He's probably been the best receiver in football to date. Just worried that he's doing it without monstrous targets. Like I think he's got 18 targets on the season so far. That's solid. It's very good. But I'm just worried that we're going to see more downside from Nico going forward as Stephon Diggs and Tank Dell get more involved in the offense. Look, Nico Collins, you're still going to start him every week. He's still going to be an elite top 10 wide receiver. I just wouldn't expect him to be the number 1 guy going forward in fantasy.
Drop down 10 more, 11 through 20, and it was a good week in week number 2 for Zay Flowers, who you see, Matthew, at number 17 on the road at Dallas.
He's gotten at least 10 targets in both games this year, 29% target share for Zay Flowers, and 5 of the last 7 games he's played, dating back to last season, he's scored at least 19 fantasy points. I'm at wide receiver 17, so you see it there on your screen. This is a must-win game for Baltimore. They are desperate. They're the George Savaricas of the NFL. They have to get a win, and so they will use all their weapons. So I think it's a Derrick Henry game, Zay Flowers, Mark Andrews. I think Lamar balls out as well. Give me the Ravens in a desperation win.
What's their team slogan? The Flock?
Ravens flock.
Ravens flock.
It's also bird up. It's super weird. The reason you haven't heard a lot of it, there's a copyright dispute, is like them and, like
Ravens and Falcons.
Ravens,
Cardinals.
Falcons, Cardinals as well, honestly. The Cardinals as well are in there. As are the Commanders, just because they're litigious. It's a weird thing. It doesn't make sense.
David on Twitter, or X, 2 flex spots, standard scoring, Olave, Flowers, Godwin, Robinson Jr., #FF pregame.
I appreciate you, David. Boy, again, a lot of great choices here. And I know this is going to sound weird because I just talked up Zay Flowers, but I'm actually going to say Chris Olave and Chris Godwin, Team Chris here. Because as good as Flowers is, I mean, just Godwin's been nothing short of fantastic the first 2 weeks. I don't know how you take him out of your lineup. So now it's Flowers versus Olave. We don't want Robinson because, again, negative game script on Monday night. We think it's more of an Eckler game. The Saints are so hot, and just Olave has just been, it's such a narrow target tree that I think they'll shadow more coverage to Shaheed this week. And so I'm sticking with Chris Olave. I understand the question, but I don't know. I think the Saints are too hot, and I think Olave gets going today in a big way.
Yeah, Chris Godwin has a higher yardage receiving yards prop than Tariq Hill this week. Chris Godwin's been nothing short of amazing, and also you suspect that probably Surtain goes to Evans on the outside, and Godwin operates more on the slot.
Yeah, but the question is this: I think we all agree on Godwin. The question is, would either of you guys start Zay Flowers over Chris Olave?
No. I have Zay ranked a few spots below Olave. Chris Godwin I have over both of them.
Yeah, of course.
And Godwin's a guy you're looking at who's at 15th in the rankings, Lawrence.
No receiver has scored more fantasy points than him up until this point. That's just the facts. He's had at least 8 targets, caught 7 of them, and scored a touchdown in both of these games this season. He's got 200 receiving yards so far in the season. Jay, you mentioned Patrick Surtain probably on Mike Evans. That's probably why you have him ranked lower. That goes into that. So Chris Godwin, man, if this keeps going on, he's going to be ranked in the top 10 every week.
Yeah.
At 21 through 30, we finally had the JSN breakout game that we had been waiting for, who's at 22. We were talking before the show, Jay. His receiving yardage props at what, like 50 and a half?
Oh, yeah. We might get to that in the next segment.
So tantalizing after he busted out, Matthew.
He had a 37% target share in week number 2. He's playing more snaps. He's running more routes than Tyler Lockett. By the way, the Dolphins struggle against the slot. They have so far this season as well. I think JSN has a nice game here as my wide receiver 22.
One spot behind him, Shaheed on the Saints, has been a touchdown machine through 2 weeks. Jay, we got him at 23.
Yeah, Rashid Shaheed, he's been dependent on these 70-yard bombs. So I'm interested to see how much.
Come
That
on.
was pretty good. If he
Stop
can keep
that.
doing that, then he won't need the 70-yard
No.
bombs. But I think with Shaheed, can he operate more in intermediate spaces? Can they get him more screens to provide value? Because if he's counting on 60, 70-yard touchdown bombs every week, that's not always going to be there. So are there more sustainable aspects to his game that can make him an every week start? I think there probably are, just we haven't seen it because the Saints have played just 2 weird games. They just got up by 25 immediately. So just want to see what this offense looks like in a normal kind of game.
Yeah, 2 down victories for the Saints. And our final 10 we're looking at in wide receiver ranks 31 through 40. And for Terry McLaurin, if he even got to 50 yards, it would be a phenomenal week. After,
I know.
But you had mentioned how Cliff Kingsbury wants him to get him more involved in different lineup in different spots on the offense.
Correct. So you see it there on your screen. He's at 35. Look, it's been tough, right? I mean, Daniels has the lowest average depth of target among all starting quarterbacks through 2 weeks. The Bengals actually allow the 4th fewest receiving yards to wide receivers. So I get all the negatives, right? And McLaurin has been bad. However, part of the Cincinnati numbers are skewed by the fact they played the Patriots in week 1, who weren't that good. Again, McLaurin's been bad. And part of the reason McLaurin's been bad is because they've run him on the left side every single time, and Daniels is not throwing deep. I think Daniels will be forced to be more aggressive because of the game script. You can get away with it against the Giants, right? And they were sort of in that game with the Bucs in week 1, but they're going to get boat raced by the Bengals, and so I think I think it's going to be some junk time for Terry McLaurin, but certainly there's some risk, and that's why he's at wide receiver 35.
The Commanders plus 280 or something to win that game.
It's
just like 100 to 1 shot.
Yeah,
the Commanders
it's like
win. It's like a 25% chance.
Yeah.
Win the game. It's pretty high.
No,
You mean the Commanders who are tied for first in the?
So you don't think it's no chance the Commanders could
I think
win?
it's a football game. There's always a chance. There's always a chance the Bengals start slow. I just think they're getting T. Higgins back. Their home game on Monday Night Football. The crowd will get into it. The Burrow is playing better. I just don't think we're very good.
No, you're not.
We're not.
You're not. But Jane Daniels is still
Faith
a lot of
in,
upside.
and
Yeah,
look,
yeah,
faith,
Jay
in,
Daniels is
faith
the
in
truth.
5. There's a new saying for you.
What?
Faith in 5. That's all you need right there.
Faith in 5?
Yep, number 5.
Oh, yeah, faith in 5. Okay.
Faith in 5.
Okay, got it.
He was such a good deep ball thrower at LSU.
Yeah, he was.
And we haven't seen it.
That's
so
what we
far
do.
with the Commanders.
That's kind of our MO is we bring a player in and then we take away whatever they do best.
All right,
Hey, look, anyone can throw deep. Why don't you, try this stuff?
Why don't you try Zach Ertz?
Yeah.
let's try wide receiver screens instead. Lad McConkey at 36. Lawrence, good week 1. It didn't do much week number 2.
Yeah, and I know Josh Palmer is out, but Pittsburgh's allowing the fewest fantasy points per game to receivers. You look at the implied gain total, 34.5, by far the lowest in week 2. Then you look at the fact that Pittsburgh has the 2nd most rush attempts. The Chargers have the 7th most rush attempts. Both these teams are trying to run the ball, so it's going to be hard for Quentin Johnson to repeat what he did and for Lad McConkey to repeat what he did in week 1.
Finally, we're getting to tight end rankings. And Matthew, Brock Bowers, and we were looking at this last week. His receiving yardage over-under was 32.5 last week. That's jumped up to around 48 or 49.5. So the market giving the man some respect, and we see him near the top of the list.
I mean, he's been nothing short of terrific. He's got a 25% target share this season. He's the only tight end with 6 or more receptions in both games this year. Panthers, by the way, have allowed the 3rd most fantasy points to opposing tight ends. So tons of usage and a great matchup at home. All the Brock Bowers. Brocktober comes early.
Yeah.
You heard
Again,
me. You heard me.
September 22.
I don't care. You heard me, Jay. I'm owning that.
Okay.
It's Brocktober.
We heard you loud and clear.
Yeah.
Jake Ferguson
Let's
back
dance the Brock Lobster.
after.
I'll do
You
all
see
those
him
jokes.
dance? He was dancing at they practice the other day. He was.
Yeah,
It was all right.
yeah. I'm gonna ask my wife to cook up dinner in a Brock pot tonight.
Oh, man.
Yeah, I got 1 million of them. You want me to keep going?
One more? No?
All right.
Okay.
All
Let's.
Okay, Jake Ferguson, tight end 8.
Brock
This
around the
is how.
clock.
I love how you're just saying them to
Yeah,
me like I'm the
that's
only
right.
captive audience
You know
here.
we are.
Because you are.
We're
You
live
are.
on P Brock.
Yeah, Brocklanders.
Yeah, Brock Landers. Yeah.
Jake Ferguson, tight end
I'm gonna
8.
change my team to live at noon on the Brock.
How
Don't
about
stop
that?
now when
How
you're
about
this
that
hot.
Jake Ferguson?
How about
Jay?
Jake Ferguson?
How about that Jake Ferguson?
I'm not really inspired to talk about him anymore after this garbage. So here's how dire tight end is the Jake Ferguson with half a leg going up against the Ravens defense as tight end 8 somehow. He's on my team and I'm starting him in the League of Arsenals. I don't feel good about it at all, but it's him or Colby Parkinson. So we go with Jake Ferguson. Like in theory, he's Dak Prescott's number 2 target. There should be a pretty big gap between 2 and 3, whether that's Tolbert or Brandon Cooks or whomever. So Jake Ferguson, I think with the state of the position, you probably have to start him if you drafted him, but not feeling amazing about big game Jake.
I'm more positive than you.
Okay. Hope you're right.
Yeah.
He's on my team.
We have 11 through 20, and we got the Bengals tight end at number 12. But Matthew, he's facing the Commanders second.
Yeah, exactly, which we're excited about. Look, a 20% target share so far this season. Now Higgins will be back on Monday night, so we expect that to come a little bit lower. But one thing that's, I think, exciting is that he's gotten an end zone target in both games. It does seem like there's a bit of a connection there between Joe Burrow and Mike Gesicki. Again, they're all touchdown-dependent tight ends, so why not pick a tight end that's in a high-scoring game from a quarterback that's given him an end zone target in both games this season, in what should be a high-scoring game. So, yeah.
Just to update, Taysom Hill officially out. We had
Yep.
these rankings before that was declared today.
Yeah, Evan Ingram not going to play on Monday night. That's why you see Brenton Strange there as well. And I don't love him today, but I will say Greg Dulcich is playing a ton of snaps, running a lot of routes for what the Broncos are calling an offense. It's, I need to see Bo Nix like.
Would you call the offense trash?
I would call the offense struggling. I'm nicer than. Again, I'm benevolent. You are. I actually am a benevolent leader. You are.
It's not,
You're
it
neither
wasn't
of
my
those things.
terminology. It was George the Greeks last week.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I'm actually on Bo Nix this week to cover his passing average
Oh,
prop
you've
at 187 and a
checked
half.
it out.
Oh, good God.
So
Difference
maybe
a week
Greg
makes.
Dulcich.
Dalton Schultz at 15 for the Texans.
Yeah, he's
Quickly
not
launched.
someone I feel great about at this point. Last year, he was a better play, but he's tight end 24 through 2 games with he's gotten under 5 fantasy points in both games. Now, the Vikings do allow the 5th most fantasy points to tight ends, but with a tight end who's 5th on his team in targets, we just talked about literally every Texans wide receiver. So how could you feel great about a guy who's 5th on the team in targets? I would feel that's a shaky start right there if you got to go that route.
Definition of a shaky start for sure. Basically, any tight end outside of top
Yeah.
5. How about this look?
This 100 yards
going
today.
100 yards and 2 touchdowns.
Yeah.
It's 100 yards
Got
today.
the chain too.
Oh, yeah.
King Henry ready for business in the Lone Star State.
Fantastic.
Imagine,
He looks like he's heading to a high-stakes poker game.
imagine tailoring a
And he
suit
about
for
to
Derek
win.
Henry.
He's got his loot in his bag.
100%.
I'll play for whatever makes you uncomfortable.
Yeah, exactly.
Welcome back. The pregame outfits never disappoint, especially when you're coming off a week in which you had a 97-yard reception for a touchdown. Justin Jefferson is the Vikings home dogs, 1 o'clock Eastern time. What would you rate that, Lawrence? The bag really makes the
I would prefer the Derrick Henry look over this one.
More swag?
Yeah, you know, it's just more like boss-like, more like I'm going to get these 3 touchdowns.
Going to the poker game, or is he going to a different party?
He's going to a different party. He's going to the neighborhood swing party.
He going to one of them Shannon Sharp parties.
He's definitely doing that. But I feels like he's making a lot of money. He just signed a big contract. Couldn't someone fix his jeans? There were a lot of holes in it.
Very good, Matthew. Very good.
Age-old question.
You ain't got no jeans with no holes in them?
I do, but I don't have the kind of money that Justin Jefferson does.
You know what we're doing this segment, guys, for Beer Goggles?
What is that?
We're going to get tilted.
Oh,
so
my
on
God.
A scale,
no one dropped Kyler Murray.
Or Josh Allen.
I don't think I could ever get that drunk.
Oh, I could.
when there's a will, there's a way.
I think, you could.
Yeah.
You wouldn't drop your ride or die, though. Maybe
No.
you would drop like Jalen Hurts because you were drunk.
I've done all sorts of dumb stuff when I've been drunk.
As a refresher, for those new to FF pregame, on a scale of 1 to 5 beers, what would it take you to start one of these players? So first matchup we got.
How drunk do you have to be?
Exactly.
Right.
Green Bay at Tennessee.
Jay's favorite part of the show is when I explain bits.
Yes.
He really loves it.
He relishes those moments.
I love the necessary exposition.
Yeah.
That's what I'm all about.
Yeah.
Well, that's what you're here for.
Exactly.
Tony Pollard, Matthew Berry. How many beers?
0 beers. I
Zero?
love
That was 1 to 5.
He's my running back 14. He's averaging 20 touches a game this season. He's got an 18.5% target share, which, by the way, is top 5 among running backs through 2 weeks. And you think about this Green Bay Packers defense, which has allowed the 7th most fantasy points to opposing running backs. I am stone cold sober and putting Tony Pollard into my lineup.
Okay. Sober start for Berry. We got DeAndre Hopkins for you, Jay.
Yes, I will correct Barry's sober start. 5 beers for DeAndre Hopkins.
Going ugly.
He hasn't done anything. He's still not out there. He's not catching the ball.
He's not healthy.
Need to see him be fully healthy before I'm starting DeAndre Hopkins. He can do better.
Packers side, Jaden Reed, Lawrence.
Yeah, I'm going to need 4 beers for this one. That'll switch to 1 or 2 when Jordan Love comes back. 4 touches for 46 yards in week 2. Packers will try to play the same kind of ball control offense against the Titans.
So after 1 round, Jay got shot out of a cannon with a 5-beer lead
yeah.
on Matthew
Felt
Berry.
Yeah.
We got the
Him and Lawrence are in the corner. They got their arms around each other. I love you, man. I love you.
morale is high right
I
now
tell
on this
Lawrence-
side of the table.
I tell Lawrence I love him when I'm sober.
Yeah.
Those 4 beers will probably get me to drop Jaden Reed. Then he'll go score a 60-yard touchdown on a jet sweep.
Those are the breaks when it comes to fantasy football. Giants at the Browns. Jerome Ford for you, Mr. Berry.
I'm going to say 1 beer. You heard Lawrence talk about him up earlier. Look, no Pierre Strong in this game, so it's really just him and Deontay Foreman in what should be a very positive game script against the Giants. New York, through 2 games, bottom 5 run defense in both rushing yards and receiving yards allowed to opposing running backs. So Ford, who's one of the bright spots of this middling, struggling Browns offense, comes in at running back 23 for me. Just 1 beer. I'd be fine. Just a slight little buzz. Just getting the evening going. Get it in there, Jerome Ford.
So this is the week where the Giants start their march towards the NFC East title. We got Devin Singletary. How many beers for you, Jay?
You're absolutely right, George. I love that you're on the bandwagon. I believe that price is still out there.
And 8-1.
If you
Wow.
want to jump
Surprised
on
the
there
line
with me.
hasn't shifted.
Just do me a favor. When you bet that specific bet at DraftKings, use promo code J. I don't want you to use.
Isn't it J Gun?
I don't want you to use promo code Barry.
Don't tarnish the Barry name.
To bet that bet. I want no credit for that one. That should be
promo
all
code.
J Gun.
Use promo code JHOVA on that one. Devin Singletary, 3 beers. The underlying stats on Devin Singletary are like insanely good. I don't know how, but he's like broken missed tackle rate. He's been great. Still a running back for the New York Giants going up against an elite defense. So through volume alone, I think he's a viable flex play, but not super excited. In 5 weeks, when the Giants are on a winning streak, he'll be more of an option.
How about Amari Cooper? He's been missing the first 2 weeks fantasy-wise.
Yeah, and that's why I'm middling with this 3 beers, because he's not catching the ball right now, but still on the field for 91% of the snaps, got a 21% target share, and then he's playing against the Giants secondary, so there's some good and some bad with that, so I'll go 3 beers.
Chargers at Steelers. If you had told me before the season both teams would be undefeated, and you got Justin Fields, who has been the man as the starter for the Steelers. It's surprising that both teams are at this spot, but here we are. We got Justin Herbert playing through the high ankle sprain.
Yeah.
How many beers to start him fantasy-wise?
5. I need to be passed out drunk. I need to be running through the streets naked drunk, right? Justin Herbert. Justin Herbert.
It's like an Alabama tailgate.
1,000%. Roll Tide. Justin Herbert. Through 2 games this year, he's averaging just 137 passing yards a game, just 23 passing attempts, and now he has to go on the road at Pittsburgh, which is top 3 in rush rate. Through he goes to go to a very good defense in Pittsburgh, right? Both teams are top 3 in rush rate, so you're seeing both teams are going to run the ball. It's a very low over/under as well, and Herbert is banged up, like he's on one leg. He's my QB 23, and I'm probably too high on him there. At 5 beers, I want to be blitzed out of my mind drunk.
Herbert's been the schism of good real quarterback, terrible fantasy quarterback through 2 weeks, and to everything you said there, uncomfortable spot. You got to be in a 2 QB league if you're trotting out a dinged up Justin Herbert. Najee Harris, Jay, for the Steelers.
Yes, my man, my beloved
Najee.
2 beers for Najee. Elite rushing defense so far from the Chargers. They haven't played much. He still should get plenty of volume. Steelers are favored. They'll be running the ball. So through volume alone, he's startable.
George Pickens.
I would honestly say 1 beer. Week 1, 14.5 fantasy points without a touchdown. Last week, he had a 53-yard catch nullified by penalty, 10-yard touchdown catch taken away by penalty. Like, the plays is there for him and only him in this passing offense. So I just need 1 beer for George Pickens.
You've said the Commanders are the get-right elixir for everyone.
Yeah.
Panthers. Right there.
Right up there.
On the road at the Raiders.
Only one team has allowed more rushing yards to running backs this season than the Carolina Panthers. So Zamir White, you didn't ask me a question, but I'll do your job too for you, George. Don't worry about it. 2 beers for Zamir White. Look, Kamara and Dobbins both rushed for 80 yards and a touchdown against this Carolina Panthers. They're 5.5-point favorites at home. The Raiders are. So should be, if ever there was a week for Zamir White, who I'm not a fan of, but if ever there was a week for Zamir White, it's here. He's not involved in the passing game, so just 2 beers for me on Zamir White. He's my running back 24.
Like Zamir White, I just want you to take the ball and run with it.
There you go. Well done. I see what you did there.
Deontay Johnson with Andy Dalton now, Jay.
Yeah, I feel better about him now than I do with Bryce Young. But still 3 beers for Deontay Johnson. Just need to see what Andy Dalton actually looks like in this offense, but certainly is flex viable.
How many beers for Chuba Hubbard?
3 beers. Even though the Raiders are 6th worst against running backs in fantasy, I'm still iffy about the workload share there in the backfield. Then it's the Panthers offense. So again, I'm feeling middling on that 3 beers.
You 2 guys combined 25 beers right there. That might be a new 2-man record.
I get those types of players.
It's like a 2-man case race. So this from DraftKings. We got our pickup lines. Like this.
Wow.
We're doing the effectiveness.
I think I've
Got
seen
the
that.
smiling glamour shots here. So
Yeah,
each guy's picked up Barry once. The bet's cashing in right now, tied at 1-1.
Yeah.
So for all the marbles, week number 3.
Okay.
let's break it.
So let's get our holler on to Matthew. Both these guys are going to be slurring their words.
Who gets to snuggle with me tonight?
Yep.
Well, I'll kick it off.
Who gets
right
to be
here.
my little spoon?
I ain't gonna do that much.
Little Cooper Cup.
Yeah, it's a tone setter.
I'm gonna start off here with Zay Flowers, alt line, 60 receiving yards at plus 105. That number's down from plus 110. Matthew, you talked about him a little earlier. 2 straight games, double-digit targets. They're gonna get him the ball, however which way at every level of the field. Dallas has surrendered this number, 60 yards. They surrendered this number to 3 players in 1 game last week. So I believe with Zay Flowers' 29% target share, he'll easily surpass this number against the not-so-great Dallas defense.
Okay. I'm baffled by how low this number is, Matthew. Jackson Smith in Jigba, JSN over 51.5 receiving yards. He had 16 targets last week. In terms of target rate, he's the 4th most targeted player in football through 2 weeks. The Dolphins, they really struggle against the slot with Kohu in the slot. The pass rate over expectation for the Seahawks last week, off the charts. Geno Smith threw the ball 44 times. And the thing I like here, low number for JSN, high floor because he plays in the slot. I would be very surprised if he goes under 51.5 receiving yards.
I like both bets. I believe in both bets. Sorry, Lawrence, I'm going home with Jay. But keep your phone on. Let me see. I might roll through later. But I talked up JSN as well. Had you gone with not the alt line, I'm a little nervous that I think it might be a big King Henry day.
I'm always going to go for the alt line.
I know you will. So anyway, I like both bets, but I'm going with JSN. The lower number, better matchup. I agree. I think he's going to have a big game.
But have Lawrence sleep with one eye open in case you want a doubleheader.
Yeah, just keep the phone by the bed. Because I'll probably text on my way done when I'm done with Jay, and I'll be like, "You up?"
Now,
You
by
know,
the
what's
time
up?
Zay Flowers got 98 yards, I'm going to be like, too late, buddy.
Yeah, fair enough.
Diggs back with the fans in Minnesota. Remember, Diggs' homecoming.
That's
Began
nice
his
of
career
them.
with the Vikings.
Stefan, not as big a revenge game as Malik Willis against Tennessee, but yeah, something there.
We got our touchdown parlay
Ooh.
coming your way next.
And more shenanigans.
Hey folks, Denny Carter here from NBC Sports and Rotoworld coming at you with 3 widely available kicker plays for Week 3. We're going to start with Blake Grupe of the Saints. Of course, I mentioned him on the Fantasy Football Happy Hour on Friday. Still a big believer in Grupe. The Eagles are allowing 3.5 field goal attempts per game through Week 2. That's one of the highest rates in the league. Grupe should be in a great position, of course, attached to the Saints' Death Star offense, as it's been. Get Grupe in your lineup. If you can't, consider Jason Myers of the Seahawks. The Seahawks at home, big favorites against the Tua-less Dolphins. Should be a win for the Seahawks, and that could be good news for Myers, who last year averaged 2.7 field goal tries per game in Seattle wins. I think he's a great floor play at the very worst here. And then you have Chase McLaughlin as our third play, the Bucs kicker, if you didn't know somehow. Of course, the Bucs are big favorites at home against the Broncos. Should be lots of positive and neutral game script on the Bucs side. That's always good for the kicker. And McLaughlin is 5 for 5 on the season. The Bucs are averaging a league high 4 red zone possessions per game. So those are your kickers. Get out there and get them.
Notable players outscored by kickers this season. For how bad tight ends have been, the kickers have been incredible through 2 weeks.
Yep.
I mean, it's the numbers put up, right? Brandon Aubrey, Kaimi Fairburn for the Texans, just off the charts.
That's why you shouldn't play with kickers, because that's dumb. But if you do, listen to my man Denny.
You get a strong anti-kicker stance.
Yes.
Yeah, that was aggressive.
Yeah.
Okay, remember DraftKings, the #1 place to bet touchdowns. Lawrence, we were 3 for 4 last week. We were close. This is the FF pregame anytime TD parlay price. You see it plus money plus 1087. So Jay, we'll kick it off with you. You got Derrick Henry.
Yep. Derrick Henry in the -135 leg. Think he gets it in the end zone. The Ravens love to run it when they get close to the goal line.
Lawrence, Jerome
Yeah, we
Ford.
talked about him earlier. Again, more efficient Browns running back going against the Giants. Think he gets into the end zone today.
James Conner's had touches of 19 and 22 each of the last 2 weeks. He's scored in each game, 51.5 over/under. He's all they got. You know, when they get in close, they're giving it to James Conner.
Saquon going to atone for the drop last week. He's going to have a big game and what I think is going to be a high-scoring shootout against the Saints. Bar trivia, and it is the J-Gun Show after 2 weeks.
Always
How about
is.
that
It's
record?
outrageous. It's not always.
19-8-1, Mr. Barry.
Yeah.
17-10-1,
worried
and
about it.
Lawrence looking up at 16-11
Wanted to give myself a
and 1.
challenge.
We got 2.5 minutes, so let's try and get through as many of these as we can. Who scored more fantasy points, Daniel Jones or Deshaun Watson?
Daniel Jones.
Watson.
Daniel Jones.
Who had more total yards, Tony Pollard or Josh Jacobs?
Josh Jacobs.
Jacobs.
Tony Pollard.
Who had more receptions, DJ Moore or Michael Pittman Jr.?
DJ Moore.
Pittman.
Okay, wow, we got differing viewpoints. Who had more receiving yards, Justin Jefferson or Nico Collins?
Justin Jefferson.
Jefferson.
You should
Quorum
pick an
across the
order.
board. Who scored more fantasy points, Devonta Smith or Chris Olave?
Devonta Smith.
I'm going to say Chris Olave.
Smith.
More rushing yards, Najee Harris or J.K. Dobbins?
J.K. Dobbins.
J.K. Dobbins.
Dobbins.
Rushing yards, Rashad White or Javonte Williams?
White.
Javonte Williams.
Williams.
Passing yards, Andy Dalton or Gardner Minshew?
Dalton.
Okay, give me the red rifle.
Minshew.
Okay. More receiving yards, how about this one? Tyreek Hill or DK Metcalf?
Tyreek.
Oh, damn. I thought I was going to be the only one that went Tyreek.
DK Metcalf.
There we go. Matthew Berry changing it up. More fantasy points. I like this one. Lamar Jackson or CeeDee Lamb?
Lamar.
You know my answer. Lamar.
Yeah, 3 for 3, Lamar.
More fantasy points, Jordan Mason or Kyron Williams?
Jordan Mason.
Jordan Mason.
Jordan Mason.
No love for Kyron Williams. They just don't run the ball. More passing yards, Kyler Murray, whom some people may have dropped, or Jared Goff?
Goff.
Jared Goff.
Goff.
More receptions, Travis Kelce or Kyle Pitts?
Kelsey.
We got 2 more to go. More total yards, James Cook or Travis Etienne?
Cook.
Cook.
And our final one for you, Matthew, more fantasy points, Jaden Daniels or Jamar Chase?
Jamar Chase.
Jamar Chase.
Faith in 5. Jaden Daniels.
And here we go. 20 seconds to go in the
Wow.
show. So, Wise, your
Closing
mind
time.
this week.
You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. Do me a favor. Don't get so drunk you drop Kyler Murray. For Denny Carter, Lawrence Jackson, Jay Croucher, and George the Greek, I'm Matthew Berry. Good luck in week number 3. We'll see you tomorrow for Fantasy Football Happy Hour, Peacock, and NFL on NBC YouTube. Peace out.
P. Brock?
P. Brock.